He's known as the laziest and most trashy writer alive. Readers don't even enjoy his stories. They only read them to roast him. But karma works fast because one day, he finds himself reincarnated in a magic world as the Demon King, who later joins a hero academy. Before that, our boy remembers dying from a heart attack, caused not by stress, but by thousands of rose comments. Ridiculous, right? Yet there he is, staring at his own lifeless body, forced to accept the absurdity of it all. Standing beside his corpse is a woman in a corporate suit, her aura cold and calm. Turns out she's a Grim Reaper. She explains that before entering heaven, he must atone for a grave sin. But how could someone with an otaku lifestyle possibly have sinned? Then comes the bombshell. His sin isn't murder or theft. It's being one of those authors who abandon their novels halfway and write stories with disastrous continuations. He can hardly believe it counts as a sin, but the Grim Reaper makes it clear, even if it had affected one person, it would have been forgivable. Yet he disappointed thousands and still kept publishing under fake accounts. That's more than enough to earn punishment. To atone, he must reincarnate as a random character inside one of his own novels and survive until the end. That statement alone makes him furious. Every single one of his stories is terrible. Even as the author, he knows surviving any of them is nearly impossible. Seeing his hesitation, the Grim Reaper smirks and threatens to choose a story for him if he keeps stalling. In frustration, he blurts out the title of his latest work, The Demon King is Dead. The story revolves around a magic academy, set after the death of the Demon King. It sounds safe enough. He doesn't care about being a protagonist. Any side character would do. At least, that was the plan. The Grim Reaper wishes him luck. In the blink of an eye, his surroundings change. Gone is the office-like afterlife. Now he's standing in a medieval world, the exact setting of his novel. But something's off. A glowing system screen pops up before him, something that never existed in the original story. Then comes the real shock. The character he's reincarnated as is none other than Valor Jr., the son of the Demon King himself, the very villain destined to die at the story's beginning. Just his luck to become the heir of a collapsing demon race. Before he can process it, the system flashes his first mission. Survive the fall of the Demon King castle. Reward, 100 achievement points. Rage boils within him. He curses the Grim Reaper for dropping him into this hopeless situation. The war is already lost, and the Demon King's downfall is moments away. After sprinting for a while, Valor finally stumbles upon the Demon Castle's storage room. His powers right now are garbage, so he hopes to find anything that could boost his odds of survival. Unfortunately, most of the stuff lying around is nothing but junk. After rummaging for a bit, he manages to find a dusty magic scroll book. Now all he needs is a spell that can get him the hell out of this place. His eyes light up when he discovers a teleportation scroll. Perfect, until it refuses to work no matter how many times he tries. Then comes the kicker. A glowing system message pops up, saying the spell failed due to a movement magic barrier. Valor has no clue what that even means, and frustration builds fast. Just when he's ready to accept his fate, the book suddenly flips on its own, revealing another scroll hidden beneath. This one turns out to be camouflage magic, a low-rank spell, but still useful. It cloaks his presence and disguises his appearance. Immediately, a plan sparks in his head. He'll use the spell to disguise himself as a human, sneak into the human prison cells, get rescued by the Imperial Army, and vanish the first chance he gets. After sneaking his way into the human prison area, the moment he steps inside, an overwhelming stench hits him straight in the face. Before he can even process it, he feels something squishy under his foot. Looking down, he freezes. It's a human hand. He jerks back in shock, heart pounding. None of this was ever mentioned in the novel, which makes it even worse. While panic starts creeping in, movement catches his eye, a survivor. Approaching cautiously, Valor decides to speak first, asking if the girl is all right. She nods weakly, which brings a bit of relief. After a short exchange, he reassures her that help will definitely come, suggesting they stick together until then. She agrees without hesitation and moves closer. Now the air turns painfully awkward. The silence, mixed with that awful smell, makes the moment unbearable. Trying to lighten things up, Valier offers her some food he found earlier in his pocket. She accepts it quietly with a soft thank you, then goes silent again. Moments later, footsteps echo through the corridor. Soldiers from a human army storm into the cell. But something feels off. Their expressions twist with shock as soon as they see the girl. Then, all at once, they drop to their knees and bow deeply, apologizing for arriving late. It finally hits Valier like a lightning bolt. The girl he's been talking to this whole time is none other than Princess Charlotte de Gradius, the first princess of the Gradius Empire. Before he can even process the revelation, the system chimes in with another message. Mission complete. First quest cleared. The next scene unfolds at the Imperial Army camp. Though the princess personally tends to him, Valier finds no joy in staying close to her. From the moment they were rescued, she's kept a sharp eye on him. Now, he can barely take a step without guards lurking nearby, and that's not even the biggest issue. The name Princess Charlotte doesn't ring a bell. Even as the supposed author of this world, he has no clue who she is. During their talk, the princess tries to learn how he was captured and imprisoned. As a token of gratitude, she offers to escort him back to his hometown. But Valier has no idea how to respond. Even worse, the knight nearby keeps glaring at him, as if ready to slice off his head the second he slips up. Thinking quickly, Valier claims he's lost his memory. The lie catches the princess off guard, and she even tears up a little. Thankfully, that emotional act helps him dodge suspicion, at least for now. Moments later, the princess regains her composure and calmly orders the knight to fetch a doctor, claiming sudden stomach pain. The knight tries to protest, reminding her that his duty is to protect her personally. But she insists, her tone sharp enough to cut through steel. Reluctantly, the knight obeys, clearly irritated as he storms out. Something is definitely off. The instant Sir Lance steps out, Princess Charlotte's entire demeanor changes, replaced by someone sharp and calculating. Valier notices it too. Her eyes harden as she apologizes, confessing that because of her, his life is now in danger. The revelation stuns him. There's a good reason he doesn't recognize her. She's not a character he ever wrote. Her existence ties back to Bertus de Gradius, her stepbrother. She explains that the Empire is caught in a fierce succession struggle. Most of the knights in this camp are secretly loyal to Bertus's faction, which means one thing: the princess isn't meant to survive. Right now, they're both living on borrowed time, only spared because her brother's order hasn't arrived yet. When it does, both of them will die. It finally makes sense. Sir Lance's irritation wasn't random. Valier's presence just complicated his already dangerous situation. Still, Princess Charlotte assures him that she'll protect him. She promises to help him recover his memory and keep him safe. But first, they must come up with a plan. And this time, the success of that plan will depend entirely on him. Our boy listens closely as the princess lays out her plan. For them to have even a small chance, they'll need the help of Sir Francis. The name doesn't ring a bell. Seeing his puzzled face, the princess explains that Sir Francis is the knight who rescued them from the Demon King's castle. He's one of the few still loyal to the imperial family, a neutral faction that hasn't chosen sides. Even so, our boy can't shake his doubts. What if the man has already switched sides? The princess counters with simple logic. If Sir Francis was their enemy, he would have killed them in the prison instead of saving them. Fair point. Her reasoning checks out, and the plan actually sounds doable. The next step is straightforward. He'll make the escape while she acts as the bait. Our boy immediately points out how reckless that sounds. Remembering Sir Lance, it's clear that if he hadn't been in the tent earlier, the princess might already be dead. Princess Charlotte rises to her feet and grabs his hand. She tries to stay composed, but her trembling fingers say it all. Her life now rests entirely in his hands. That's all the motivation he needs. The moment the guards drop their guard, our boy makes his move to escape, but he's a step too late. From one of the knights, he learns that Sir Francis left to deal with the remaining demons of the castle. Strangely enough, This mission came directly from Sir Lance. That single detail says everything. The bastard already knows their plan. Now they're completely cooked. The knight demands to know why he's asking for Sir Francis so urgently. In desperation, our boy blurts out that it's an emergency. Sir Francis is in danger. Surprisingly, the knight decides to help. Unfortunately, that part plays only in his imagination. Forced to think fast, he drops the act and insists that both the princess and Sir Francis are in grave danger. He admits that the story sounds absurd and that he wouldn't believe it either, but the knight sees the desperation in his eyes and decides to trust him. Turns out, the knight had his own doubts. Sir Francis himself had told him to stay behind earlier, which struck him as strange. Even more suspicious, he mentioned that someone might come looking for help, as if he had predicted this exact situation. That's enough proof. Our boy decides to trust him. The knight introduces himself as Dyrus. Neither of them realize that Sir Lance has been quietly observing everything from shadows. By nightfall, they reach the Demon King's castle. Dyrus salutes sharply, introducing himself as the platoon leader of the 11th Squadron. But as soon as he inquires about Sir Francis, the air turns heavy. They're too late. Sir Francis has already been reported dead in battle during the operation. At this point, it's obvious anyone this author doesn't remember writing about is doomed to die. It's clear the knight is hiding something, but one thing is certain. There's no one left who can protect the princess now. The message they receive had been meant only for Sir Francis, so the Sir Dyrus chose to keep it to him. Realizing this, the knight turns grim and decides to leave. Meanwhile, our boy can't wrap his head around how everything went downhill so fast. Then Dyrus's voice cuts through the silence, dark and heavy. He demands the full story. Why was his boy so desperate to find Sir Francis? Cornered, Valier hesitates. He's unsure if Dyrus can be trusted, especially since most knights here support the princess's brother. Still, with no better choice, he takes the risk and spills everything. From the rescue to the princess's warning, down to the threat closing in on them. Dyrus listens in silence, processing every detail before making a sharp conclusion. He believes Sir Francis wasn't killed in battle, but assassinated. As for the princess's safety, Dyrus vows to protect her and lend whatever help he can. Turns out, he's part of Sir Francis's neutral faction, loyal to the imperial bloodline itself. Wasting no time, Dyrus insists they return to the camp immediately. But our boy has other plans. When he explains his idea, Dyrus studies him for a moment, praising his quick thinking. Their goal now is to search the Demon King's storage for anything useful to escape. Once inside, Dyrus grimaces. Judging by the destruction, it's clear someone already raided the place. Of course, he assumes it was demons, but we know the truth. Let's just say our boy isn't about to admit anything. That's when Valier spots the familiar teleportation scrolls. He suggests taking as many as possible, but Dyrus frowns, noting that the scrolls are made using demonic runes. The man can't hide his disgust. Valier just shrugs and pulls out a magic book like it's no big deal. That move immediately raises Dyrus' suspicion. No normal person should know their way around this castle, or the layout of the storage room, this well. But before he can ask questions, they finish gathering supplies and prepare to move. It's time to head back to the Imperial camp. Halfway through their journey, Dyrus suddenly halts. Someone's approaching. He grabs Valier by the shoulder and signals for silence. Soon enough, armored footsteps echo through the ruins. A squad of knights has arrived, searching for whoever came looking for Sir Francis and dared to enter the Demon King's castle. Dyrus peers through the shadows and recognizes the crest on their armor. His eyes narrow. They're knights of the Silurian Duchy. Valier remembers that name. The Silurian crest belongs to the princess's maternal family, one of the Empire's strongest noble houses. But their current mission? To secure the throne for Bertus. Things just got a whole lot messy, eh? One of the enemy knights, gifted with keen senses, halts mid-step. He feels something, eyes scanning the darkness until he spots movement behind a massive statue. The leader smirks and orders them to come out peacefully. When they step into view, a knight and a civilian boy, the man scoffs in disgust, mocking the princess with vile words that drip with arrogance. Dyrus's rage boils over. His expression hardens as he warns them to hold their tongue when speaking of the princess. The leader laughs it off, pitying the poor knight for dragging a civilian into this. Swords flash and the tension spikes. Even a fool could see Dyrus is outnumbered. Our boy curses under his breath, realizing how bad this situation's gotten. But then, something strange happens. The statue's eyes suddenly glow a deep crimson. Valier freezes. The golem moves. It's as if it actually heard his thoughts. In an instant, the massive stone guardian lunges forward, smashing the enemy leader into the ground, sending him straight to the afterlife before he even knows what hit him. Valier's jaw drops. Did the golem really respond to his thoughts? There's no time to figure it out. They need to escape now. Our boy and Sir Dyrus manage to save the princess. Earlier, they ride through the night. Something on his system window catches his eye. He finally notices details he'd overlooked before. Under his status, a strange ability stands out, Demon Domination. And right below it, a title, Lowest Grade Demon. He stiffens. If his guess is right, that skill lets him subconsciously command demons, which explains a lot and could be a real problem if anyone ever finds out. Before he can think deeper, Sir Dyrus snaps him back to reality. Enemy reinforcements are closing in fast. Valier quickly flips open a magic book, desperately searching for something useful. The first spell he finds boosts their horse's speed. With a flash of mana, their mount surges forward, putting a wide gap between them and the enemy. For a brief moment, Dyrus even starts to compliment him, until an arrow slices past his neck, missing by inches. Crossbows. They're under fire again. Our boy shouts that he has a plan to deal with the knights shooting from horseback. But Dyrus shakes his head, saying it won't work. And he's right. In the original novel, Valier himself had written a setting that made knights nearly impossible to knock off their horses with a single spell. That buff was supposed to make cavalry units more formidable. Unfortunately, that genius idea is now coming back to bite him. So he switches tactics. Instead of targeting the riders, he targets the horses. He casts an illusion spell that terrifies the steeds, followed by a charm spell that throws their formation into chaos. The plan works perfectly. The enemy line breaks apart. Excited by his success, he starts flipping through the magic book again, eager to try out more spells. But before he can, their horse suddenly skids to a stop. A problem and a big one. The knights are closing in again. Then, up ahead, he spots a group of demons. Prisoners of war, most likely. The moment he sees them, that same strange sensation returns. The same connection he felt with the golem back at the Demon King's castle. Before he can process it, an orc among them suddenly goes berserk. Ignoring Valier completely, it charges straight at the knights chasing them. The enemy knights halt, forming up to meet the attack. It's chaos. But for Valier and Dyrus, it's the perfect chance to escape. They ride off again, leaving the battle behind. Unbeknownst to our boy, Dyrus's suspicion only deepens. The golem at the castle could have been coincidence, but this orc incident is far too deliberate. Still, the mission comes first. The princess's safety outweighs everything. By nightfall, they finally reach the imperial camp, only to be stopped by the guards. The knights block their way, refusing to let them meet Princess Charlotte. So Dyrus takes charge, switching to Plan B. He draws the guards' attention, creating a distraction, basically acting as bait. Meanwhile, our boy slips through the confusion, his task clear: find the princess. He enters her tent, and Charlotte's eyes widen in surprise. Before she can speak, he orders her to shield her eyes. Light magic flares from his hands as he pulls her close, activating a teleportation spell to the imperial capital, Guardium, and in an instant, both of them vanish from the camp. Just like that, the first chapter of his novel comes full circle. And for altering the original storyline in such a massive way, the system rewards him. 1,000 achievement points earned. Arriving at the imperial capital marks the true beginning of the main story. Valor stares at the city in disbelief. This isn't the capital he designed. In his novel, Guardium was supposed to be modeled after modern Seoul, bustling, majestic, and alive with magic tech. But what he sees now barely matches the version he wrote. Still, now isn't the time to complain. What matters is that they're alive. He turns to the princess, who looks absolutely dazed. Clearly, this is her first time experiencing teleportation. She blinks like a confused puppy. Extending his hand, Valor apologizes and explains that they've successfully arrived at the imperial capital. He also breaks the news about Sir Francis's death. The information only deepens her confusion, but he decides to save the full explanation for when Sir Dyrus arrives. Moments later, Dyrus finally appears, visibly relieved to see them both safe. Operation Plan B was a complete success. Princess Charlotte, still slightly shaken, suddenly asks about Dyrus's identity. Realizing his oversight, the knight straightens up and formally introduces himself as a knight of the Imperial Army. He then recounts everything that happened: the ambush, the escape, the chase, and how they survived. Technically, Valor should feel proud. After all, he played a key role in saving a royal princess. Surely that deserves a reward. But something feels off. Dyrus's story makes Valor sound suspiciously lucky. Too many coincidences, from being aided by demons to using teleportation magic tainted with demonic patterns. Before long, even the princess begins to look at him differently. Of course, it's understandable. She grew up surrounded by nobles and politics. Suspicion is second nature to her. Still, Valor knows staying near her for too long is dangerous. If she starts digging, his identity as an outsider, or worse, a demon, might be exposed. So, for the sake of his own survival, he quietly bows out. He's free, but not exactly safe. Now alone, broke, and homeless in the middle of the Empire's capital, our boy is completely screwed. He starts reflecting, maybe he should have made his novel world more convenient. Like, why didn't he let demons live off mana instead of food? That would have saved him a lot of trouble. As if on cue, a system window pops up. It explains that to unlock or modify settings like that, he needs to accumulate 100,000 achievement points. Valor blinks in confusion. What does that even mean? The system doesn't hold back. It basically roasts him for being clueless before granting him author authority, the power to interfere in the events of his own novel. A new panel appears, showing how to earn points, through completing main and side quests. Valor scrolls through and immediately regrets it. The side quests look ridiculous, like one that rewards 10,000 points for clapping the Empress's cheeks. Whoever designed this system clearly had no shame. Still, as a reward for completing the prologue, he unlocks 2 new skills. The first is revision, the ability to alter or rewrite certain events, and potentially use it as a buff on himself. The second is preview, which lets him see upcoming events before they happen. Sounds overpowered, right? Not for long. The system immediately slaps a restriction on him. He can't interfere with main plot lines or main characters. Our boy schemes the explanation, too lazy to read in detail, so the system summarizes it for him. Everything in the world can be changed using achievement points, except anything that involves the main story. Any attempt to mess with that will trigger a penalty. Then the system, staying true to its attitude, calls him a lazy bastard and wishes him luck. With barely any points in his balance, Valor decides to explore the system more. He discovers a new feature, Writer's Advice, costing 250 achievement points. Apparently, he could spend points to receive hints about what to do next. Confused, he asks for clarification. The system shows an illustration. Vague advice gives unclear hints, while clear advice provides direct guidance. The current hint suggests visiting a magic store. Valor assumes the system is telling him to sell some scrolls for cash. Unfortunately, reality hits hard. Every store he visits refuses to buy his scrolls. Some shopkeepers even accuse him of trying to scam them with fakes. He walks away frustrated, wondering why nobody recognizes their value. But the answer is about to reveal itself. At another shop, the moment he steps inside, the store owner suddenly appears right behind him, startling him out of his skin. Trying to stay calm, he says he's here for business. The woman gives him a cold, skeptical stare, the kind reserved for people who waste her time. Still, she decides to humor him, saying she normally doesn't buy scrolls, but today, she'll make an exception. Her tone shifts mid-sentence. She narrows her eyes, demanding to know where he got the scrolls. Then she drops the bombshell. These scrolls carry magical formulas only demons use. Valier freezes. And just like that, our boy is officially cooked. Most people would probably blame him. After all, he's a demon, and humans don't exactly have the best track record of understanding demons. But in truth, it's not their fault, it's his. Our boy's a trash author who never even bothered to create a proper magic system in his own novel. So of course he doesn't understand why humans can't read demon scrolls. He doesn't even know the difference between human and demon spell formulas himself. Meanwhile, the woman before him clearly does. Her eyes burn with suspicion as she demands again to know where he got the scroll. Panicking, Valier calls for the system, hoping for some kind of support or reversal trick. The system's response? A giant middle finger. Yeah, he must have seriously offended whoever's running this cosmic joke of a system. With no other choice, he admits he found the scrolls in the Demon King's castle. The woman narrows her eyes, clearly not buying it. When words don't convince her, she starts threatening him instead. Cornered, Valier finally spills everything, from the demon castle to saving the princess, leaving nothing out. Even then, she calls him a liar. He insists he's telling the truth, explaining that the reason he hasn't returned to the castle for a reward is because doing so would make him a target of Prince Bertus. His desperate act somehow works. Maybe it's his tone, maybe his face, or maybe sheer luck, but she softens. Then, out of nowhere, she steps forward and hugs him. Valier freezes. What just happened? The woman murmurs that he must have been through a lot. He awkwardly agrees, throwing in that he's lost his memory. That catches her attention. She assumes his amnesia is from a curse placed on him in the Demon King's castle, and says it could be cured with a release spell. Valier's eyes go wide. A curse release spell? Absolutely not. If that spell lifts his transformation, he's doomed. Before he can stop her, she starts chanting, and then his blood runs cold. The truth comes out. The woman suddenly kneels before him, her voice trembling as she addresses him by his true title, the Demon Prince. Valier's mind goes blank. He has no idea how to respond. She looks up, puzzled that he doesn't seem to remember her. Without warning, she begins casting another spell, her form shifting as her true self is revealed. Pale skin, crimson eyes, and fangs sharp enough to draw blood. She's a vampire. Still, Valier's mind is a fog. He can't recall her no matter how hard he tries. The woman, now calm and composed, says they can't continue talking here. Too many ears, too much risk. She suggests moving to a back room. Valier hesitates, but agrees. Inside the second room, she studies him closely. When he confirms that all he remembers is being the Demon Prince, her expression softens. She calls it fate that they met again. Then she properly introduces herself. Her name is Elleris, a member of the Demon King's army, specifically the Guardium Infiltration Squad. Valier blinks. That's oddly specific. He asks why her base is located in the sunny district of the city, basically the worst possible place for a vampire. Elleris sighs and admits it's the only place she could afford. Yes, even vampires struggle with rent. Valier can't tell if he should laugh or cry. Changing the topic, he asks about the other squad members. The first is Sarkar, a Dreadfiend demon currently disguised as Count Argon. Dreadfiends are masters of transformation magic, and apparently, he was the one responsible for kidnapping Princess Charlotte. Valier mentally notes that name for later. The second member is Lawyer, a lycanthrope-type demon and ruler of the underworld. She controls the largest gang in the capital and is the main source of funding for their cause. When Valier asks how she manages to fund an entire faction, Elleris calmly explains that she sells candy. Valier nearly spits out his drink. So that's why this vampire can't afford rent. Despite his disbelief, Elleris can tell by his reactions that he truly doesn't remember anything. Oddly enough, that seems to relieve her. Then she asks how he plans to rebuild the demon race. Valier goes silent for a moment before answering plainly. He has no intention of reviving the demon kingdom. Elleris looks stunned. He continues, saying he's experienced war once before and has no desire to rally people into another bloodbath. She stares at him in disbelief, her voice trembling as she repeats his words. But Valier stands firm, declaring that the demon kingdom is already gone. There's nothing left to rule, and he has no interest in being king over ashes. A heavy silence fills the room. For a moment, he wonders if he went too far. But instead of sadness, he notices something unexpected in her expression: relief. Later that night, our boy finds himself with no place to go. Naturally, he ends up crashing at her place. And since there's only one bed, let's just say things get awkward. It's finally time for our boy to head to the Human Magic Academy. This marks the true beginning of the first chapter of his novel. The demon lord is dead, the hero has sacrificed himself, and the princess has been saved. Naturally, the streets of Guardium are alive with celebration. Thankfully, the mana train he wrote about actually exists here. Both he and Elleris boarded, heading toward their next destination, Lawyer. Surprisingly, one of Lawyer's bases is located in the slums, the lowest of the low. Our boy is shocked when Elleris leads him through an entrance that connects directly to the sewers. And once inside, he's completely freaked out. Out of nowhere, a figure emerges from the shadows, startling him half to death. But it turns out to be Lawyer, who bows respectfully in greeting. Valier returns the gesture politely, though he's inwardly shocked. He never imagined Lawyer would be a woman. Elleris quickly briefs her on the situation, explaining that Valier has lost his memories. Lawyer turns to him, her eyes narrowing. She asks if it's true, and he nods. To his surprise, she actually looks relieved. That reaction alone makes him wonder what kind of person Valier used to be. He doesn't have to wonder long. Lawyer awkwardly admits that the old Valier used to treat her like a pet dog. Elleris, ever the teaser, adds that Lawyer actually liked that treatment back then. The air turns awkward. Trying to smooth things over, Valier apologizes for his past behavior and offers his hand, suggesting they start fresh. Lawyer instinctively responds with a paw shake. Everyone freezes. A few seconds of silence later, Elleris bursts into laughter while Lawyer snaps at her in embarrassment, quickly turning back to Valier to apologize. Before the atmosphere can settle, the final member of the infiltration team arrives. This one stands out immediately. Our boy remembers Elleris's earlier warning about Sarkar, a dreadfiend demon with an intense personality, the kind who would gladly die for the demon race without hesitation. With everyone finally gathered, the meeting begins. Sarkar takes the lead, talking passionately about rebuilding the demon kingdom, much to Lawyer's annoyance. Valier listens quietly, though deep down he doesn't see how he's supposed to rebuild an entire nation in his current state. That's when Sarkar suddenly refers to him as the great and mighty archdemon, another term he doesn't understand, and he's the author. Seeing his blank reaction, Elleris steps in to explain. The demon race, she says, was once a chaotic mess. Constant wars, endless killing, the strong dominating the weak. Until one being emerged, a demon powerful enough to unite them all. That being was called an archdemon. In short, only the Demon King's descendants carry the blood of an archdemon, granting them the power to command other demons. Even after hearing this, Valier doesn't see how that's supposed to help right now. But Sarkar insists that he must grow stronger and reunite the demon race once more. Valier raises his concern. The risks are too high. Instead, he proposes staying within the capital, learning more about humans, and using that knowledge to form a strategy that could ensure long-term survival. To his surprise, Sarkar beams with pride, calling it a wise decision. Meanwhile, Valier's internal monologue is simple. Speaking of staying in the city, Sarkar suddenly suggests an idea that Valier enroll in the Imperial Magic Academy. Valier freezes. Lawyer, who's usually quick to argue, actually supports the idea. She claims it's a perfect opportunity to blend in and gather information. Desperate, Valier turns to Elleris for help, hoping she'll reject the plan. But no, she agrees too. He reminds them that's risky given his identity as the Demon Prince. Sarkar then offers him a solution, a ring of the Dreadfiend clan. It allows the wearer to freely alter their appearance. And just like that, the decision's made. To protect his identity further, Valier goes undercover under a fake identity. To outsiders, he's introduced as Lawyer's younger brother. Now, the Demon Prince of the Underworld goes by a new name, Reinhardt. He picks it himself, partly because it's simple, and partly because it's close to the name of the novel's main protagonist. Lawyer immediately orders one of her subordinates to help him secure an official ID for enrollment. Everything seems to be falling into place until the subordinate suddenly raises a crucial question. How exactly are they supposed to pay for his academy tuition? That's right. Our boy almost forgot that Lawyer's gang mainly sells sweets for a living. The problem? Gradius Magic Academy isn't just any school. It's the most prestigious institution in the Empire, designed for children of noble and wealthy families. The tuition fee for a single year? A jaw-dropping $100,000 in the real world. Lawyer folds her arms, deep in thought. She turns to her subordinate, Daibun, asking if there's any possible way to gather that much money. Our boy quietly observes as Daibun hesitates before suggesting they reduce the amount allocated from the gang's main budget, which immediately sounds suspicious to him. Lawyer, however, rejects the idea instantly. That's when our boy cuts in with a proposal of his own. He suggests paying only for one semester instead of a full year. Lawyer gives him a skeptical look. She suspects he's planning to apply for a scholarship. Well, she's not wrong. The capital is currently searching for its next hero candidate, and as long as he proves himself talented, his tuition could easily be waived. And with his trusty system, he could just gift himself a few talents if needed. Daibun admits it's a good plan, but there's still one problem. Even the initial admission fee might be too much with their declining business revenue. That's when our boy smirks and comes up with another idea. A way to bring in customers and boost their candy sales. He suggests setting up shop near the Mana train station, the busiest place in the capital. Parents constantly travel with their kids, and what child can resist sweets? Daibun immediately lights up, calling him a genius. Lawyer, on the other hand, glares at him suspiciously, and he responds with that smug grin of his. You see, she almost called him a lucky bastard. So he offers his hand for a handshake. She instinctively responds like before, a paw shake. And our boy's grin widens even more. The scene shifts to later that night in the slums. A lively welcoming celebration is held in his honor, an official initiation into what they proudly call the family of beggars. Mugs clink, laughter echoes, and everyone raises their beer cups in a cheer for their newest member. When the party dies down, our boy quietly pulls Daibun aside. He's been thinking about their earlier talk with Lawyer. No matter how he tries, it doesn't make sense. Lawyer runs the largest gang in the underworld. She funds the infiltration team by herself. So how can they be struggling with money? Something doesn't add up. She has to be hiding something. But Daibun's too drunk to give a proper answer, mumbling nonsense before passing out. That's when Lawyer suddenly appears. She immediately scolds Daibun for letting a minor drink beer, then drags our boy inside for a talk. Daibun just groans and apologizes inwardly for what's about to happen. Inside, Lawyer reprimands him for being careless. She reminds him that drinking in public could draw unwanted attention, especially if someone discovers his true identity. Our boy cuts her off mid-sentence. He demands she come clean. He knows she's running something shady and that the candy business is just a cover. Otherwise, how could she possibly afford to fund an infiltration squad alone? Lawyer sighs and admits she didn't tell him because she thought he didn't need to know. He presses further, asking if she's doing something that harms people. Her answer is complicated. She admits that selling sweets is indeed just a front. Their beggar group mainly gathers information, but she refuses to go into details, saying he has no reason to be involved. He lets it go. After all, he doesn't plan on staying with the gang forever. Once he gets that scholarship, he's out. The next day, our boy finally receives his new identity card. Time to head to the academy admission office. The place is packed. Nobles, merchants, and highborn students everywhere. Since the academy screens applicants based on talent, he and Daibun confidently walk up to the counter. The receptionist narrows her eyes, clearly unimpressed. She assumes they're lost or confused. But our boy calmly explains that he's here to apply for admission. The lady sighs dramatically. She's seen this before. Hopefuls who think they can pay half tuition and still get in. Seeing Valier's blank expression, she smirks, saying the academy doesn't accept half payments. Our boy's ready to leave when Daibun steps up and suggests they at least test his talent. Who knows, he says. He might be a once-in-a-million genius. But before that, he asked if the test was free. The receptionist shrugs. Testing is free, so why not? She brings out a glowing crystal orb and instructs him to place his hand on it. Valier hesitates for a moment, but reluctantly complies. The orb lights up, and the woman's eyebrows shoot up in shock. Assuming the device is broken, she rushes off to grab another one. No, not broken. The first result might be just bad because of the stats. She brings back a fresh device, double-checks everything, and asks him to try again. Same result. Her jaw drops. The device isn't malfunctioning. The readings are real. Daibun leans forward eagerly, asking to see the results himself. The receptionist awkwardly explains that while his talent score is basically non-existent, there's something unusual about him. According to the orb, he possesses an attitude-type trait, a form of potential. Normally, people with attitude traits can't even dream of entering Gradius Academy. But then the officer reveals a surprising twist. While his score is low, the reading shows something extraordinary. He has the attitude to master every talent in the world. For instance, our boy can now use both holy and dark magic. And that alone shocks everyone, because no one in the entire history of the Empire has ever possessed both. Daibun always believed there was something special about him, but this is beyond anything he imagined. Later that day, Daibun rushes back to inform Lawyer about the results. Her reaction mirrors everyone else's total disbelief. After some playful teasing, she gives our boy a confident thumbs up. Meanwhile, our boy isn't as thrilled as they are. He suspects this whole infinite attitude thing is just the story trying to make itself more logical. Basically, since he now has the attitude to master everything, he can freely choose any path, warrior, mage, healer, or even combine them all if he wants. It's convenient, sure, but also kind of nightmare. Because at this rate, there's no way he'll stay under the radar. He's planning to quietly join the main story next semester, but with these results, he'll definitely get dumped into the royal class. The royal class, the academy's elite of the elite. Permanent scholarships, luxurious dorms, personal mentors. It's basically heaven for geniuses. But for our boy, it's a problem. Because in his original novel, the main protagonist is in Class B, and Class A students constantly look down on them. Eventually, the protagonist forms bonds with his B-class friends and rises to crush the arrogant A-class elites. Meaning anyone in Class A is fated to be a background character, rival, or straight-up villain. And guess who just became one of them? Yeah, our boy's cooked. He can already picture himself getting beat up by the hero's friend group, while dramatic music plays in the background. Elleris, on the other hand, doesn't see the problem. To her, Class A is a privilege. Only the best of the best get in. But that's exactly the problem. Our boy keeps quiet for a moment before suddenly asking why she really wanted him to attend the academy in the first place. The question catches her off guard. Then, before she can answer, he pushes further, asking what she'd do if one day he changed his mind, regained his strength, and declared war against humanity. Elleris doesn't flinch. She smiles softly and says she believes that once he spends enough time among humans, he'll come to understand and even love them. And if that time ever comes, they'll figure something out together. She's already prepared his clothing for the academy and even hands him a necklace. Our boy blinks in confusion. She reminds him of their first meeting at the magic store and explains what the necklace truly represents. It bears the insignia of the Tuesday clan, one of the 7 vampire clans. The Monday and Sunday clans vanished long ago, their magic lost to time, while the remaining 5 each specialize in a different elemental magic. Her clan, Tuesday, specializes in flame magic. Our boy is stunned. Why would she give him something so precious? Elleris gestures toward the ring from Sarkar, the symbol of his own clan. She says it's only fair that she does the same. After explaining how to activate it, she lets him try. He channels his mana, and the result is embarrassing. The fire that bursts out is so tiny it wouldn't even count as a proper fireball. Elleris can't help but smile at his confused expression. But then she admits something unexpected. She actually hopes he never has to use the necklace's true power. That catches him off guard. She explains that the necklace's strength grows stronger the more hatred the user feels towards someone. She hopes he understands why she gave it to him. He does. Reflecting quietly, he realizes she gave it to him not because she expects him to use it, but because she doesn't want him to hate anyone. So he promises to keep that warning in mind and vows not to use the necklace until graduation. Elleris smiles brightly, genuinely happy at his answer. Not long after, another visitor arrives, Lawyer, carrying a pouch filled with glittering gold coins. His first allowance. He thanks her and promises to use it wisely. She nods and turns to leave, but then starts acting strangely. Her words, her tone, they match exactly what she said in the novel. Realizing where this scene leads, he quickly cuts her off and tells her to go before she continues. After she leaves, he sits back and groans. He remembers now. The novel was supposed to be a slice-of-life story, something lighthearted, meant to comfort people in dark times. But he also remembers what kind of writer he was. A terrible one. And in his bad writing habits, he made a huge mistake. Because somewhere later in the story, a gate suddenly appears, a rift connecting to another world. And from that gate comes a threat powerful enough to annihilate the entire world. Knowing what's coming, our boy starts to panic. He's cooked. Completely cooked. At first, he thinks about running away, maybe vanish before the main story begins. But the thought doesn't last long. He clenches his fists. He can't just abandon everyone and let them suffer because of his mistakes. If this world is going to face destruction because of his bad writing, then he'll fix it himself. That means one thing. He has to get stronger. And if he can gather enough achievement points, he might be able to revise the event or prevent the gate from opening altogether using his authority skill. Soon, the day of admission to the Imperial Magic Academy finally arrives. For the first time since entering his own novel, our boy is genuinely in awe. The academy is massive, shining towers, and ancient runes glowing along the walls. It's exactly how he described it, except grander. Inside, he struggles to find his dorm room, wandering around like a lost tourist. Then a girl notices him. Confident and elegant, she approaches and greets him warmly. She immediately guesses he's a new student and introduces herself as Ceres Van Owen, the president of the royal class. Our boy quickly responds with respect. She offers to help him find his dorm and, while chatting, mentions she's surprised he doesn't have a surname. Yet he's part of Class A. Before he can answer, she points toward a hallway marked with golden sigils, the A-class section, and tells him to head that way. He thanks her, and before leaving, she reminds him to attend the new student orientation later that day. Eventually, our boy finds his room. Tapping his student ID card against the handle, the magical barrier on the door vanishes with a faint click. The room inside leaves him stunned. Sure, he wrote the dorms to be luxurious, but he never imagined it would be this big in person, practically a royal suite. On the desk, he finds a welcome package, a dorm map, a rulebook, a notebook, and some snacks. Since there's still time before orientation, he decides to be productive. Pulling out the notebook, he starts writing down every setting, event, and character detail he can remember from the novel. Anything that could help him survive future story arcs. By the time he's done filling pages with notes, it's time to head to the central hall for orientation. The moment he enters, he can already tell which students to avoid. All those upperclassmen in the royal class? Yeah, let's just add them to the stay away list. As he scans the crowd, someone suddenly steps on his foot. He clenches his teeth in pain, ready to lash out, until the person turns around to apologize. And that's when he freezes. The guy introduces himself as Ludwig. Our boy mumbles his own name back, mind spinning. This is him, the protagonist of his own novel. He's meeting the hero face to face for the first time. The orientation begins. New students are called to take their seats as the faculty welcomes them to the Imperial Academy. From his spot, our boy notices something strange. Class B has 11 members. That's one more than in the original story, where there were only 10. And in Class A, he's the extra variable. He can already feel the stares, whispers spreading about the student with infinite attitude. Exactly why he didn't want to end up in this class. The introductions begin with Class A. First up is none other than Prince Bertus de Gradius. Our boy's jaw nearly drops. In the original novel, the prince was supposed to attend under a fake identity, not as himself. But here he is, publicly announcing his name and title. Next is Harriet de St. Ouen, another elite noble and top-tier mage. One by one, the introductions continue until it's finally his turn. The moment he stands, whispers erupt across the hall. Everyone recognizes him, the mysterious student with infinite attitude but zero talent. You can already imagine what that smug prince is thinking behind that calm expression. Then comes the Class B introductions, and that's when the real shock hits. The newest student in Class B is Princess Charlotte. Our boy nearly chokes on air. She wasn't supposed to be here. In his novel, the princess never attended the academy at all, which can only mean one thing. The timeline has already started to change again. Our boy can't wrap his head around it. Why are both the prince and princess attending the academy in the same year? That's not how it went in his novel. Not even close. He's convinced this change must have happened because he saved Princess Charlotte. In the original story, Prince Bertus was supposed to attend the academy under a fake identity. He was never meant to reveal who he truly was, not until much later. And by that time, he would have awakened 3 crucial skills tied to the Silurian Duchy's swordmaster lineage: close combat instinct, mana control, and mana sensitivity. Those were what qualified him to become a future swordmaster. But this time, things are completely different. Now, both members of the Imperial family are enrolled, one in Class A, the other in Class B. Why? It doesn't make sense. If they were judging based purely on skill, Bertus shouldn't even qualify for Class A. Meanwhile, Charlotte being placed in Class B feels deliberate. It's like someone at the academy intentionally arranged it this way. After all, who in their right mind puts 2 tigers in one mountain? Our boy's deep in thought when Ceres Van Owen, the royal class president, suddenly calls for everyone's attention. She starts outlining the academy's golden rule, that all students are equal, regardless of noble rank or imperial status. But then her tone hardens and her gaze sharpens like a blade. She explains what happens to those who fail to follow that rule. And, judging by her aura, she's not joking. Normally, the royal family stays out of academy affairs. But this time, even the emperor himself got involved. He sent a letter addressed to both his heirs, stating that if either of them suffers any harm, whether major or minor, the other will lose their right to compete for the throne. Now, everything makes sense. That's why Bertus revealed his identity from the start. And this decree doesn't just bind him and Charlotte. It's also a direct warning to their followers. Anyone who messes with either of them could destroy their faction's future. As soon as the orientation ends, Bertus begins working the crowd like a natural-born politician, or more accurately, a recruiter of loyal minions. Our boy immediately spots one of his early victims, Eric de la Ferry. In the novel, this guy becomes Bertus's most loyal follower, his personal lapdog. And sure enough, just a few charming words from the prince, and boom, The guy's already wagging his metaphorical tail. Our boy sighs. History's repeating itself, and it's painful to watch. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he notices a girl quietly avoiding the prince's attempts at conversation. He studies her for a moment and realizes something interesting. That's Ellen. In the class ranking, she holds position A2, just below Bertus. But in the original story, she wasn't supposed to be in Class A at all. And apparently, she's hiding a level of talent that could easily make her the top student in the academy, if she ever decided to reveal it. Even more shocking, she's actually the younger sister of the hero, the same one who sacrificed himself to slay his father, the Demon King. Our boy's still processing all this when the main protagonist himself, Ludwig, walks into the scene. And just like that, the real story begins. Ludwig, in all his clueless glory, greets the students of Class A with a bright smile, completely unaware that he's stepping into a hornet's nest. Our boy greets him back warmly, while most of Class A turns to stare. One of them, Harriet de St. Allen, looks particularly shocked and annoyed. The prince, meanwhile, just watches with a faint, knowing smirk. Ludwig, ever the pure-hearted fool, simply wants to get along with everyone. But Harriet clearly doesn't share the sentiment. She snaps at him, pointing out that this dorm section is meant for Astra's class, A students only. Ludwig, wearing his trademark innocent expression, completely misses the hint. So Harriet doubles down, emphasizing the difference between Class A and Class B, basically drawing a social line in the sand. Just as things start to get tense, the prince steps forward, putting on his noble gentleman act. With a calm tone, he gives Harriet a light reprimand, reminding her that all students are equals, regardless of class. Meanwhile, our boy watches it all unfold. Seeing Harriet's reaction, our boy lets out a quiet chuckle. Turns out she's the daughter of a duke, a noble lady who must always act refined, especially in front of the prince. In other words, she's likely a candidate for the future empress. How annoying. Meanwhile, the prince smoothly takes Ludwig away, apologizing for Harriet's behavior. As expected, his loyal follower looks starstruck by the prince's charm. Just then, a system window appears before our boy, awarding him achievement points for completing his first day at the academy. Opening the talent shop, he realizes the points aren't enough to purchase anything useful. When he asks about a discount, the system mocks him for being greedy. With no better option, he switches to the Super Abilities tab, but again, he's far from unlocking one. Abilities start weak and grow stronger through practice, meaning unlocking an ability now takes top priority over gaining a talent. The scene shifts to class. Each class has its own homeroom teacher, and this time, a white-haired man with glasses stands before them. The man introduces himself as Eppenhauser. He begins explaining the schedule. Monday and Friday are for common lessons, while the rest of the week is for pre-registered classes. Then his attention turns to the prince, appointing him as the temporary class leader. All class matters and suggestions must go through the prince first. If the class wants to choose a new leader, they'll need to report the decision to Hauser later. However, he adds an exception. During fights or emergencies, he will personally act to protect his students. Though his powers are limited, they must all look out for one another. He also reminds them that it's mandatory to check each other's talents. A smug student suddenly raises a question, asking what would happen if the teacher himself interfered in something. Hauser's calm tone sharpens as he explains that anyone caught causing trouble would face special management. Judging from a student's blank look, it's obvious he wasn't warned about what that means. With a heavy aura, Hauser clarifies further, declaring that as their teacher, he has the right to discipline his students however necessary. The entire class freezes, the atmosphere instantly tense. Another arrogant student laughs, asking if the teacher is even capable of enforcing such words. Without hesitation, Hauser responds that he's been doing this for 10 years, long enough to handle any fool who questions him. That alone is enough to silence the class. Then, unexpectedly, Hauser's gaze shifts toward our boy. A cold chill runs down his spine as he hears those dreadful words, "Follow me to my office." Inside the office, Hauser explains that he's been informed about the student with infinite aptitude, but no specific talent. He places a file on the desk, filled with records of all his classmates, their talents, super abilities, and planned schedules. Unlike them, our boy has no direction. Hauser calmly points out that everyone else already has a defined path to follow, while he doesn't even know where to start. Still, the teacher's tone holds no mockery, only a quiet understanding that surprises him. Hauser mentions he's seen students unhappy with their given talents or abilities before, but this case is unique. Having infinite aptitude could turn out to be a blessing, not a curse. When asked about his goal, our boy expresses interest in learning an ability. Hauser raises a brow. Surprised, nothing in the record indicates aptitude for super abilities. Yet, after reviewing his admission data, Hauser confirms that his aptitude range is simply too vast to be expressed in standard terms. Normally, the academy doesn't allow students without abilities to join those classes, but since he's part of the royal class, he's given privilege. However, if he fails to prove himself, expulsion will be the result. Hauser, ever the prepared teacher, already has a class schedule ready for him. Before letting him go, he gives one final piece of advice: to find interest beyond super abilities, something that might guide his growth. Returning to class, our boy carries a new level of respect for his homeroom teacher. Hauser might look strict, but he's clearly someone who cares. Yet the moment he steps back into the room, something feels off. The atmosphere turns heavy, and all eyes lock on him. From behind, footsteps approach. A student steps forward, voice filled with curiosity and a bit of disbelief. Everyone has confirmed it. He's the student with infinite aptitude, but zero talent. The moment that brown-haired idiot opened his mouth, he had no idea what kind of storm he was calling down. Earlier, the guy tried to confront our boy, asking if it was true that he had no talent. To everyone's surprise, our boy calmly agreed. No shame, no excuse, just a simple confirmation. That alone should have ended the conversation. But no, the fool just had to keep talking. He started shouting, demanding to know how someone with zero talent asterisk could possibly get into Class A. The more he ranted, the more obvious it became. It even felt like the prince had a hand in this little drama. Trying to stay civil, our boy responds politely. But instead of calming down, the fool only gets louder. At that point, it's clear reasoning won't work. So, our boy decides to give the idiot exactly what he wants, just not in the way he expects. He starts slow, asking why the fool is even yelling at him when the admission office handled his placement. Then, leaning forward, he adds more pressure. Does this idiot think he has authority over the academy's admission board? The brown-haired guy stumbles back, clearly flustered, but our boy doesn't stop there. He warns him to watch his words carefully. That's when it hits. The so-called genius is the same guy with a talent for large mana reserves, but zero magical skill. Basically, a walking mana tank who can absorb energy, but not release it. Now it all makes sense. No wonder this guy's body looks like a storage unit. And just like that, the room goes silent. Some students now look at him differently. A few in awe, others afraid. Except for the prince, who watches with an approving smirk. Our boy, however, doesn't like that look one bit. Whatever scheme the prince is planning, he wants no part in it. Later, at the cafeteria, our boy sits alone, quietly observing the main characters. The aftermath of his earlier clash has shifted the classroom atmosphere. Even the smallest cough now sends awkward ripples through the air. Meanwhile, Class B, right beside them, is full of laughter and chatter. It doesn't bother him, though. Keeping a safe distance from the main cast means less chance of derailing the original plot. From his seat, he watches as Princess Charlotte cheerfully stuffs her face with whatever Ludwig offers her. The scene transitions to physical training. Thanks to his pathetic stats, our boy looks like he might drop dead at any second. Meanwhile, Ludwig is breezing through the exercises like it's a warm-up. His physical condition is off the charts, and the realization that this torture happens every week nearly breaks our boy's spirit. Ellen, on the other hand, is perfectly fine, calm, composed, not even sweating. Meanwhile, Our boy questions if they accidentally enrolled in a military boot camp. Princess Charlotte, of course, gets a free pass because she's sick. Lucky her. By the time training ends, he's half alive and half dead. And, judging by the conversation in the locker room, this same routine happens every Thursday. That's when the orange-haired idiot decides to show up. Our boy tries to ignore him, but the guy keeps poking, mocking his weak physique, and claiming he couldn't throw a punch to save his life. When words don't get a reaction, the fool steps closer, escalating the tension. The rest of the locker room watches in silence, waiting to see what happens. Our boy exhales slowly, trying one last time to reason with him. But the smug look on the guy's face seals his fate. In one swift motion, our boy grabs him by the neck and lands a clean right hook straight across his jaw. The sound echoes through the locker room. The fool hits the ground before realizing what happened. And just like that, our boy makes his second mark in the academy. Surprisingly, the prince himself steps in, grabbing our boy by the shoulder to hold him back. He's the kind who doesn't take nonsense from anyone. And that's how both of them end up in Eppenhauser's office. The orange-haired idiot speaks first, launching into a dramatic accusation about being cursed at and punched. Our boy just glares at him. If anything, the guy's more talkative than a snitch from Class B. Eppenhauser doesn't even blink. He cuts through the noise, telling the orange-haired brat not to answer questions he wasn't asked. The room goes dead silent. Then, Hauser turns to our boy and asks one simple question. Did you hit him first? The idiot's lips curl into a smug smile, already imagining his victory. But our boy answers truthfully, yes. Except he's far from finished. He straightens his back and starts speaking clearly, accusing the orange-haired student, Kair, of making remarks that insulted the academy's honor. Kair tries to protest, but Hauser's sharp glare shuts him down instantly. Our boy continues, explaining that Kair questioned the school's admission process, claiming that people like him must have used connections to enter Class A. He admits he might have reacted harshly, but only because those words insulted the academy's fairness. Kair, desperate, tries to defend himself, saying our boy hit him first. Hauser ignores him completely and gestures for our boy to continue. That's when the real acting begins. Our boy's expression changes, his tone softens, and his eyes glisten with fake tears. He explains that he can take insults directed at himself, but disrespecting the academy crossed the line. Kair's face turns pale as sweat starts dripping down his forehead. Because at this point, everyone in the room knows he's done for. The performance ends with our boy bowing slightly, apologizing for being too emotional. And that's when the trap fully closes. One of Eppenhauser's defining traits is his fierce patriotism, loyalty to the empire and its institutions. Our boy just used that setting against him. Now Hauser doesn't even let Kair explain. The orange-haired fool trembles, realizing the deep hole he's just fallen into. Hauser dismisses our boy, saying he'll have a private talk with Kair. And that's never a good sign. Back in class, our boy ignores the stares. Rumors spread fast. Now everyone knows him as the talentless guy with a sharp tongue and a mean right hook. Still, the system window pops up, rewarding him 200 achievement points for completing a hidden challenge. New objectives start flooding in. Get first place in physical training. Our boy reads through with a tired face. Sure, being top in training sounds possible, if he breaks the protagonist and Ellen's ankles first. Be the top scorer in exams. As for academics, yeah, that's a lost cause. Receive a love confession. Skip class and get punished. Before he can think more, Eppenhauser returns with a gloomy-looking Kair. Judging by Kair's pale face, it's obvious Hauser gave him a personal lesson. Hauser collects the pre-registered class forms and leaves the room, bringing a brief moment of calm. But that peace doesn't last. Our boy overhears a familiar, annoying voice, the prince's bootlicker, and from his tone, something's clearly wrong. A girl is being bullied. Her red eyes and crimson hair stand out, marks of the archdemon's bloodline. In the demon realm, red eyes symbolize bravery and strength. But in the human world, they're a curse, a sign of bad luck and fear. Our boy remembers writing about her, an outcast abandoned by her parents, living off the streets until fate pulls her into the story. Seeing her now, one of his own creations suffering in front of him, leaves a bitter taste. He knows she'll eventually become close with the protagonist. For now, he decides to keep his distance and simply observe. Later that day, the system window flashes again. He's finally accumulated enough achievement points. As he scrolls through the shop, something catches his eye, a skill so powerful it stuns him. It's an overpowered ability he himself remembered removing in the final draft of his novel. And now, it's sitting right in front of him. In the next scene, our boy receives an unexpected love confession, earning a solid 1,000 achievement points. But to understand how this came about, rewind to the day before. While browsing through his system, he stumbled upon an ability called self-suggestion. The moment he read it, his eyes widened. This was an insanely overpowered ability that allowed the user to control others' actions through suggestion. The only problem? He distinctly remembered trashing that idea while writing the novel for being too broken. Still, it might be a blessing in disguise. So he decides to purchase it, knowing it's an evolving type ability. At least, that was the plan until something strange happens, and the system window flickers. The ability is locked, sitting there at level 0. His eye twitches in disbelief. The system just scammed him. In frustration, he starts yelling at the system for being a rip-off, but it doesn't care. Normally, abilities manifest naturally like talents. But in rare cases, they're dominant abilities, powers that require extreme emotional or physical triggers to awaken. And unfortunately, he just bought one of those. With his balance now sitting at a painful 0 points, there are only 2 options left. Either forcefully awaken the ability through a traumatic experience, or rack up more achievement points by completing missions. Scrolling through the side missions, he mutters under his breath, frustration clear. But then, a wicked grin forms on his face. A new idea sparks. Yes, the plan is simple. Get a live love confession. Now, a quick detour into the Imperial Magic Academy. The Academy isn't just a school. It's basically a small city with its own commercial district. Students often hang out there to eat, relax, and escape the pressure of studies. Inside one of the restaurants, 3 familiar faces sit together, Kair, Eric, and Kono. For context, Kair's a commoner, but his ego could rival the prince's. Eric, the ever-loyal bootlicker, and Kono, another commoner, round out this band of future disappointments. Eric notices Kair's sour face and asks about his meeting with their teacher, Eppenhauser. Kair tries to brush it off, but Kono keeps teasing him until he finally breaks and spills everything. How our boy accused him of insulting the academy and got him chewed out by Hauser. Eric shakes his head, calling it a disgrace that someone without a talent could even enter Class A. But the seriousness doesn't last. Kono, with the attention span of a fly, suddenly starts rating the girls from their class. Eric tries to act mature, but still plays along. After all, what harm could a little comparison do? They start listing their favorites. Princess Charlotte, beautiful but untouchable. Ellen, cute but too quiet. Lady Grant's, perfect, at least according to Kair, who admits she's totally his type. Just 3 idiots talking about crushes in broad daylight. But mid-conversation, someone approaches their table, a shy girl from the academy. Her presence freezes all 3 of them. She timidly asks Kono to step outside with her. The guy's so stunned that he can barely stand. His friend just gape as he awkwardly follows her out. A few minutes later, outside the restaurant, she hands him a note. The girl shyly looks away, fidgeting with her hands. She admits she likes him and asks what he thinks about her. Kono, still dazed, nods and accepts before she even finishes. The moment he says yes, she bolts, face red as a tomato. Back inside, his friends witness the entire exchange from the window, jaws on the floor. Their buddy just scored a girlfriend out of nowhere. Now both are wondering if they should hit the gym or change their hairstyle. But here's the twist. The girl who just confessed, It's none other than our boy himself. Thanks to Sarkar's transformation ring, he disguised himself perfectly. White hair, soft voice, innocent look, and the works. That smug grin on his face says it all. He's found a loophole in the system. However, before he can celebrate, the system delivers another blow, a new mission. Go on a date with Kono. The smug grin fades instantly. Pretending to date a guy just for achievement points isn't the problem. It's the fact that he'll have to break the poor guy's heart afterward. Still, he steels himself. Desperate times call for desperate measures. He needs points, no matter the cost. The next challenge is even worse. Writing his first love letter and getting rejected. And for that, he needs the perfect target. So, he spends hours planning, then finally decides on the best candidate. The silent beauty herself, Ellen. Not only is she the type who'd reject him instantly, but getting turned down by her will not spread rumors all over the academy. It's time to sell not just his pride, but his dignity too. And with that, the stage is set for his next achievement hunt. Our boy nervously approaches Ellen during swordsmanship training. For a moment, he hesitates, second-guessing himself. But after a deep breath, he steps forward and hands her a love confession letter. Ellen accepts it with a puzzled expression. She opens it, scans through the words, and then immediately rejects him without hesitation. And just like that, our boy becomes the only man in the world excited about getting turned down. His grin widens in satisfaction. But the joy doesn't last long. Ever since that day, Ellen has been giving him strange looks, not angry ones, but the kind that make a person self-conscious. And now, during their swordsmanship training session, her posture and form earns praise from the instructor. Meanwhile, on the other side of the field, our boy is getting verbally grilled for his poor form. The difference between them is night and day. Just then, the male instructor remembers the royal class has 2 students attending. He calls their names for roll call, and our boy indicated. The female instructor, however, gives him a skeptical look, surprised that someone like him is actually in the same class as Ellen. Internally, our boy sighs. This woman literally took attendance earlier. Before he can recover from that annoyance, the male instructor, brimming with excitement, suggests a sparring match between the 2 royal class students. And at that exact moment, our boy's heart drops. Students from other classes gather, expecting an epic duel between equals. But everyone already knows how this is going to end. To make matters worse, the female instructor firmly reminds them not to hold back. If our boy wasn't doomed before, he definitely is now. The match begins. Ellen vanishes from sight in an instant. Her movements too fast for the eyes to follow. She reappears behind him, striking cleanly at his blind spot. He barely sees the attack before it lands. The fight ends in seconds. As he collapses to the ground, consciousness slipping away, his only thought is how someone could get this upset over a simple confession. When he wakes up, he's in the infirmary. Ellen is sitting beside the bed, calmly reporting what happened to staff. To his surprise, she actually waited for him. Ellen admits it wasn't her intention to knock him out. She never realized how bad he was at swordsmanship, and this is her way of apologizing. Her sincerity leaves him momentarily speechless, but he appreciates the gesture and assures her he can walk on his own. Still, there's one thing she can do to make it up to him. When she agrees, that familiar mischievous grin spreads across his face, the kind that always means trouble. Later, the 2 arrive at a local restaurant. It's part of the Academy's modern district, inspired by dishes from the real world, courtesy of his own writing. And this is his version of payback for the earlier knockout. From across the table, Ellen sits with her usual calm expression, unaware of what's about to happen. Our boy watches as she takes her first bite of the dish, a meal drenched in fiery red sauce. She freezes. Within seconds, her expression twists in discomfort as the spice kicks in, and a soft groan escapes her lips. Meanwhile, our boy just sits back, watching with quiet satisfaction as the strongest swordswoman in the class is brought to her knees by a plate of spicy food. Eventually, she somehow manages to finish the entire meal, face red and eyes watering. Before leaving, She swears under her breath that she'll never step foot in that restaurant again. School life continues as usual at the Imperial Magic Academy. In magic theory class, the teacher goes on about the concept, formula, and nature of magic. Our boy finds the lesson painfully boring, the kind that makes time stop. The equations, theories, and endless explanations go right over his head. Before long, he decides enough is enough and drops out of class in style, leaving behind a room full of confused students. Next comes magic sensitivity class. The instructor urges everyone to become one with nature, to feel the flow of mana around them. Meanwhile, our boy has already achieved perfect harmony with sleep, and he's not alone. Most students look just as peaceful, turning the session into an afternoon nap competition. Then comes another combined theory class. At this point, all he can do is pray for the day to end before his brain completely melts. The next scene takes place during ability class. To his surprise, Princess Charlotte is also attending. Only a few teachers are aware of her true ability, and she even has a private instructor. While the rest of the students are busy displaying their flashy powers, our boy stands on the sidelines, chatting with his instructor. The problem? The teacher has no idea what to do with a student who doesn't even have an ability. That's when he makes a bold suggestion that catches her completely off guard. He explains that he needs to be put under mental pressure, believing it might help unlock his dormant power. The instructor stares in disbelief, calling the idea absurd. But seeing his determination, she eventually agrees to assist, with one warning. If nothing changes, he'll be dropped from the class. Later that day, at the dormitory, peace doesn't last long. Eric, the prince's ever-loyal bootlicker, suddenly appears, wearing an annoyed expression. Apparently, he has an issue with our boy joining the ability class without actually having one. Eric rants about how it's unfair, insisting that people without powers have no right to attend. Our boy's calm reply only irritates him more. The noble brat continues, demanding that he never show his face in the class again. That's when something inside snaps. Our boy finally loses his patience and starts cussing him out. Mockingly, he asks what kind of ability Eric even has that makes him so proud. The answer comes quick. Eric puffs up his chest and tries to remind him of his noble status. Bad move. With a shameless grin, our boy throws the Academy's golden rule right back at him. Titles mean nothing here. Then, like a true menace, he demands an apology or threatens to report him to the student council president. Enraged by the humiliation, Eric activates his flame ability in a burst of anger. Before anyone can blink, our boy moves. A clean slap lands across Eric's face, echoing through the hall. A lesson delivered straight from the palm of justice. Eric stumbles, eyes wide with disbelief. Trying to recover, he prepares another attack, flames flickering weakly in his hand. But once again, our boy smacks him harder this time. The entire hallway falls silent. Everyone watches as the so-called noble loses all composure. Our boy, keeping a straight face, reminds him that this was self-defense. Eric charges one last time. A quick sidestep later, he trips and falls flat on his face. Without hesitation, our boy steps on his head, holding him down effortlessly. He wonders why this fool insists on picking a fight with someone who just wants to attend class peacefully. After all, there's nothing impressive about Eric's ability. His flames barely reach a 5-centimeter radius and take 10 seconds to activate, weaker than a campfire. Bending slightly, our boy gives him one final warning. Next time, he might not be so gentle. The message finally sinks in. That evening at dinner time, the cafeteria grows quiet the moment he enters. No one dares to sit near him. Even the bravest students pretend not to notice. While lost in thought, someone suddenly approaches. It's the prince himself, calm, composed, and clearly intrigued. He's here for a personal chat, and from the look in his eyes, it's clear this bastard is up to something. The scene shifts to the balcony outside the dining hall. Our boy sits quietly, unsure why the prince suddenly wants a private conversation. Without saying much, the prince pours him a cup of tea. He accepts, but his mind stays alert. After all, Who knows what kind of twisted scheme this creepy royal might be planning? The prince wastes no time getting to the point. He claims to be here as a representative of the entire class. That alone makes our boy raise an eyebrow. Then comes the reveal. Apparently, everyone in class is terrified of him. The prince, however, insists he isn't narrow-minded. He even claims to understand our boy's actions, especially when he stood up for the Academy's honor earlier. But that's when the conversation takes a weird turn. Out of nowhere, the prince flashes a smile, the type that makes even demons uncomfortable, and says he likes him. Bruh, something is definitely wrong with this guy. Still, the prince continues, saying our boy went a little too far with his recent actions. He adds that people who dare to mess with nobles usually have powerful backing. After all, it's strange for someone to enter the academy without a surname and still act fearless. To him, it can only mean one thing. This boy must be hiding something. Deep down, the prince suspects he might be a distant relative of the royal family or someone with hidden influence. But our boy quickly breaks that theory apart. He admits he has no powerful backer, no family name, and no secret connections. He simply hates cowards and despises arrogant nobles like Kair and his group. The prince clearly didn't expect that answer. He pauses, studying him carefully before asking if there's more behind those words. But there isn't. Our boy is just someone who hates trouble and solves problems with his fists. Still, the prince doesn't seem fully convinced. Suspicion lingers in his eyes. Then, as our boy lifts his teacup, the prince freezes before suddenly bursting into laughter. Turns out he actually believes him. The reason? The way he holds his cup. Apparently, a true noble would know proper etiquette, but this guy? He's as rough as they come. That creepy grin returns to the prince's face, like he just solved world hunger. The prince then leans forward and asks if he doesn't fear retaliation once he steps outside the academy. Our boy replies calmly that he does, but killing a student inside the capital is strictly forbidden. If something happens, everyone would know exactly who's responsible. The prince counters, asking what if Eric uses his noble title to cover it up. Our boy acknowledges the risk, but points out that such a move would drag Eric's entire family into scandal. A price too heavy to pay. Impressed by the reasoning, the prince's grin widens. For the first time, he admits genuine interest in someone. Our boy, on the other hand, can't believe it. Out of all people, the first person to actually like him in this world is his own novel's villain. Then the prince stands, his expression turning serious, and asks a question that cuts through the silence. Does he love the Empire? Our boy answers yes, because the Empire accepted someone like him, a nameless street rat, into the academy. The prince blinks, visibly surprised. When asked to confirm, our boy simply nods, revealing he truly came from the streets. He even adds that the prince is free to despise him for it. But the prince doesn't. Instead, he finds the answer admirable, calling it loyalty with solid foundation. He explains that status and background mean nothing to him. As long as someone is useful, he values them. And with that, his aura shifts, carrying an edge of dominance. On the surface, the logic makes sense. But inwardly, our boy can't help thinking this man is just as creepy as he imagined. Before ending their conversation, the prince offers a final piece of advice to learn how to control his temper. Reluctantly, our boy agrees to try. The prince smirks in satisfaction, expressing hope they can talk again someday, once he's more certain of his loyalty. With that, the prince leaves first, his steps quiet but his presence heavy. Left alone, our boy watches him disappear into the corridor, wondering what he must have been thinking when he created such a sick and twisted character. Then the scene fast-forwards, a glimpse into the near future. It turns out his actions will soon cause trouble. And in that moment, he'll regret one thing deeply: not listening to the prince's advice. The weekend finally arrives, 2 days since the conversation with the prince. Nothing much was expected from it, yet the effect lingers. Now, everyone in the academy avoids him, except the main protagonist. Still, none of that matters. It's the weekend, and with nothing better to do, plans are set to visit his demon companions. What he doesn't know is that someone has been tailing him since he left the dorm. The scene shifts to Lawyer's place. She brings up the latest rumor. The prince and princess both enrolled in the Imperial Academy. Her tone carries concern, wondering if the situation could turn dangerous. Our boy answers casually, revealing that the prince actually seems to like him. Lawyer's doubtful stare says it all, but he assures her that there's already a backup plan for any emergencies. Changing the subject, he reveals the main reason for the visit. Sarkar needs to secretly investigate Princess Charlotte's abilities. Lawyer is caught off guard by the request. He clarifies that the matter isn't urgent, but it's better to prepare than sit around anxious about unknown variables. She agrees and promises to pass the order. Before he leaves, Lawyer adds something crucial. She doesn't want a meeting Elleris or Sarkar in person for now. Confused, he asks why. That's when she reveals the truth. He was followed. Most of those tracking him are his classmates. While she can't take action without exposing herself, she stresses the need for him to be far more careful from now on. Back at the academy, he walks through the halls, thoughts churning. Whoever followed him must be trying to uncover his backing. Could this be part of the prince's plot? The speculation doesn't last long, because the next thing he hears is someone calling him a beggar. The word hits hard. Within the Class A dorm, the rumor spreads fast. Kayer and Eric step forward, faces filled with disgust and disbelief, questioning how a beggar could end up in the royal class. To their surprise, he admits it without hesitation. Their shock deepens when he shows no embarrassment, only calm indifference. Confused, they demand to know where his confidence comes from. That's when his expression hardens. He warns them to back off, because unlike pampered nobles, a man from the streets has nothing to lose. One wrong move, and they'd learn how far someone like him is willing to go. Eric's face twitches with anger, clearly not the type to take a loss gracefully. Before he can speak, our boy coldly reminds him that he could gouge his eyes out if he doesn't shut up. The threat lands perfectly. The silence that follows says enough. The message is clear. He doesn't fear noble families, and he won't bow to anyone. With that, he turns to leave, tossing one final line that they should spend their weekends doing something productive instead of following a beggar. Harriet grits her teeth in frustration as he walks away. Later, back in his dorm, he pieces it all together. Kayer and Eric must have been the ones tailing him. It's only a matter of time before the whole academy learns the truth. As he's deep in thought, mostly about unlocking his sealed ability, a sharp knock interrupts. It starts light, but quickly grows aggressive. Annoyed, he yells for them to stop, thinking it's the same two idiots again. When the door opens, however, it's not who he expected. Standing there is Ellen. She speaks briefly, though the words aren't revealed, and the scene immediately cuts. The gym comes into view next. He follows Ellen inside, greeted by the sight of a blonde senior who acts like she owns the entire place. Her sharp tone echoes through the hall as she orders them to join the others. Her expression leaves no room for argument. Ellen quickly joins the group, while he remains where he is. The blonde turns sharply, questioning why he's still standing. Glancing at the others, she comments on his peculiar attitude, her voice dripping with irritation. Harriet mutters curses under her breath, suspicious about what he's planning this time. Fed up, the blonde senior raises her voice again, ordering him to fall in line one last time. But instead of moving, he stares straight at her. A cold silence fills the room. And then it happens. He drops a verbal bomb that leaves everyone frozen. Whatever he says shakes the entire gym, petrifying the senior and stunning his classmates. Our boy is actually terrified of hitting the blonde senior, mostly because he fears her fragile head might just fall off. Trembling, the blonde demands if he even knows who he's talking to, but he clearly doesn't care. At this point, he looks more like a bully savoring the moment, enjoying her flustered reaction. Tears begin to well in her eyes as humiliation turns to fury. Swearing to make him pay for embarrassing her, she storms out of the gym in a flash. After she leaves, silence fills the air. Our boy turns to his classmates, demanding an explanation. With gritted teeth, Kayer finally answers, revealing that the entire event is nothing but a twisted academy tradition. Apparently, Each year, the seniors send a representative to discipline the first years. The excuse? To make sure Class it doesn't lose to Class B. Meanwhile, Class B is probably having the time of their lives, bonding peacefully with their seniors. Before he can process the nonsense, Harriet steps forward. Her tone drips with irritation as she demands to know if he'll take responsibility when things spiral out of control. Confused, he asks what she means. She explains that the senior might develop a grudge and cause problems for their class. Our boy sighs, calling her stupid in the process. How could that possibly affect them? It's not like anyone's going to lose sleep over it. If a senior crosses the line, they can simply report it. Honestly, it's clear he's the only one in the room using his brain. That's when Harriet snaps, cursing under her breath and swearing she'll kill him if anything happens. He doesn't like the sound of that. Calmly, he warns her to never spout nonsense again, or his handprint might remain on her face for a week. After all, the Academy fully supports equality. And just like that, bro does her dirty. Before anyone can react, the gym doors swing open with a loud bang. The blonde senior returns, this time with reinforcements. She wastes no time pointing at our boy, identifying him as the troublemaker. A male senior steps forward, sizing him up. He demands to know if our boy was the one who caused the problem. Without hesitation, our boy confirms. Assuming he's some arrogant noble, the senior puffs out his chest, ready to assert dominance. But our boy cuts him off, clarifying that he isn't a noble. The senior's brows furrow. If he isn't a noble, then what is he? Royalty? Our boy answers boldly. He's a beggar from the streets. That only confuses the senior further. The audacity irritates him. Fed up, he throws a surprise punch straight to our boy's gut. The hits keep coming, punches, kicks, a knee to the face. The senior's intent is clear, to beat respect into him. The rest of the gym watches in tense silence as the one-sided beating unfolds. But then something shifts. Our boy's eyes flicker red, and his patience snaps. He suddenly grabs the senior in between, specifically the one holding his family jewels. His grip tightens. A sharp, guttural scream escapes the senior's mouth, loud enough to make everyone flinch. Our boy doesn't let go. This is what happens when someone picks a fight they can't handle. The other seniors panic and move to intervene, but he only squeezes tighter, his expression calm, yet deadly. One wrong move, and their friend will be singing falsetto for the rest of his life. He makes it clear, this is a lesson for Kayer and his friends. Never mess with him again. The senior, pale and trembling, finally starts begging for mercy. But our boy just gives him a reassuring smile and softly mutters a single, cold response. No. Moments later, the senior collapses unconscious from the pain. Our boy steps back, breathing steadily, then delivers every punch and kick he received, returning each blow with exact precision. Once satisfied, he looks down at the unconscious senior and turns to the others. With casual confidence, he tells them to take their trash out of the gym. The blonde senior, shaking with anger, calls him a perverted bastard. He simply smirks, taking it as a compliment. Before he can leave, another senior steps forward, a calm and composed girl with long dark hair. Unlike the others, she doesn't seem angry at all. She introduces herself as Adriana from second year, Class A. Her tone is soft yet firm as she explains that they were forced into this ridiculous tradition by the third years. Her blonde friend, Red Ina, might seem arrogant, but she's actually one of the kindest people in the academy. Imagine how painful it must have been for her to act cruelly toward her juniors. Our boy scoffs, calling it nonsense. No one forces someone kind to bully others. It's a choice. Adriana repeats that the orders came from the third years. They had no say in it. But he's not interested in excuses. Instead, to her shock, he gives her a message to deliver. Tell the third years to come see him, personally, and give them a date. After all, he wants to know if those arrogant upperclassmen have the guts to stand against someone the prince himself seems to favor. The scene opens with our boy in another private conversation with the prince. It turns out the prince already knows about the upper class tradition, the one where seniors bully first years to discipline them. The reason they hasn't stepped in until now is simple. They've been cautious because of his presence. He wonders aloud if the seniors will still show up after what happened, but our boy doubts it. Even if they do, it won't end well for them. He calmly lays out two scenarios. The first, the prince might refuse to listen, which means they'll soon find themselves in a miserable position. The second, he actually obey, though that's highly unlikely. Either way, once the higher-ups hear about it, their families will face the consequences. The prince can't help but look impressed, though he notes that our boy used his name without permission and didn't even address him as a classmate. Technically, that's breaking academy rules. Our boy explains that it was the only way out of a bad situation. Normally, this would call for punishment, but the prince decides to overlook it on one condition. He wants our boy to observe and report directly to him about his sister, Princess Charlotte. Our boy agrees, promising to inform him if anything strange happens. Later, on his way back to his dorm, he can't help but think about the prince's final words, especially the part about not calling Harriet an idiot anymore. And speaking of Harriet, the first person he runs into on his way back is her. The moment she sees him, she tilts her head away, pretending not to notice. That mischievous spark in his eyes lights up instantly. When Harriet finally turns to him and demands to know if he said something, he simply mutters one word, idiot. That single word is enough to make her flare up. Approaching him with an irritated expression, she accuses him of trying to provoke her into using her status so that she gets punished instead. He insists that wasn't his intention, but that only makes her angrier. Before leaving, he remarks that her frustrated face actually looks kind of cute. Her cheeks turn bright red in embarrassment. He clarifies with a smirk that he only meant her childish expression, which somehow makes it even worse. The following day, trouble arrives. The senior who almost lost his family jewels suddenly stakes his entire family honor to challenge our boy to a duel. While the senior rants dramatically about respect and reputation, our boy simply waits for him to finish. When the noise finally dies down, he points out the obvious, calling the whole thing shameless. It's ridiculous to turn a one-sided beatdown into an honorable duel. Our boy might be reckless, but he isn't stupid. Still, after a few heated exchanges, he shocks everyone by accepting the challenge. The senior smirks and warns him to prepare himself before leaving. No one in class even dares to breathe during the whole exchange. After class, Red Ina, the blonde senior from before, approaches him. It turns out she's genuinely worried about his safety, even though she was among the ones who were egging him on in his class earlier. Our boy clearly doesn't have the patience to deal with her, but she keeps insisting that everything could be solved with a sincere apology. He doesn't even entertain the thought. Calmly walking past her, he explains that apologizing isn't his style. It's obvious he didn't accept the duel for nothing. First, he needs the experience, the kind of extreme situation that could help awaken his ability. And second, he needs more achievement points to unlock a new talent. Later that day, he meets with Eppenhauser to officially register the duel. And just like that, word of a first-year challenging an upperclassman spreads across the entire academy like wildfire. After finishing his physical training, our boy is approached by Princess Charlotte herself. Without a word, she hands him a folded note and walks away. Curious, he opens it and finds a message. The princess wants to meet him after class. Slightly confused yet intrigued, he decides to stay behind, wondering what she could possibly want. He recalls the serious look she had when giving him the note. It wasn't the face of a playful royal, but someone weighed down by something heavy. Moments later, the princess walks in, her expression firm and resolute. He's about to call her out for her strange behavior, giving him a secret letter and then storming off without a word. But before he can say anything, she cuts him off mid-sentence. Her voice is steady yet sharp as she declares that she knows his true identity. Normally, Princess Charlotte wouldn't even glance at someone like him. But after hearing rumors that the beggar from Class A had caught her brother's attention, she decided to investigate for herself. And the result? She knows everything, from lawyers' underground operations to the smallest details about her companions. Listening to her precise account, our boy starts to wonder if this woman is really a princess or a secret agent. The fact she could dig up so much from the shadiest corners of the capital is both terrifying and impressive. She makes it clear she doesn't want excuses. One word from her, and every member of Lawyer's group would disappear overnight. Realizing the gravity of the situation, our boy calmly asks what she wants from him. To his surprise, she pulls out a poster, a sketch of himself. The princess declares that she's looking for this person. If he's alive, she wants to know his location. If he's dead, she wants to see the body with her own eyes. All information related to the investigation must be reported directly to her and kept completely confidential. And if her brother, the prince, learns anything about it, well, that part doesn't need to be explained. Now our boy finds himself in a serious bind. It's clear the princess suspects that Valier, the man who saved her, somehow became a beggar. And given her tone, she's definitely not the same timid girl he rescued back in the demon castle. The problem is that too many coincidences are piling up. Valier disappears, and suddenly he, Reinhardt, appears. The only thing keeping him safe right now is that she doesn't yet suspect he and Valier are the same person. But for how long? While lost in thought, someone suddenly approaches. It's Harriet. From the look on her face, she's clearly trying to tease him again. But our boy responds with that same calm tone that always throws her off. Finding no fun in teasing him, she switches topics and asks about his upcoming duel. He's caught off guard by her sudden interest, but she continues, asking if he's scared. Without missing a beat, he replies that he's so terrified he might wet himself. She stares blankly, unsure if he's joking or serious, then asks why he even accepted the duel. His expression doesn't waver. He simply says it doesn't matter. Annoyed by his indifference, Harriet leaves with a huff. Watching her storm off, he can't help but realize this might be the first real conversation they've ever had. But there's no time to dwell on that. The duel is in 2 weeks, and he needs to prepare. Later that evening, he heads to the training grounds and spots Ellen and another classmate practicing. He finds an empty corner, confident they'll ignore him. Even though he could try using his system's author authority to cheat his way through training, it feels meaningless. What's the point of writing himself as a sword master when he doesn't even have the basics down? If he's going to survive, it'll be through real effort. He swings his wooden sword with determination, which lasts about 10 seconds before he collapses. Thankfully, no one saw that. He forces himself back up and keeps training until nightfall. His palms are bruised and blistered, yet he pushes through. Looking at his sore hands, he wonders how Ellen and Cliffman managed to train like this every single day. Just then, a thought hits him. Today is the day he told the third years to come. Panic flashes across his face for a moment, thinking they might have actually shown up. But it turns out to be Adriana instead. She explains that she came because of Redina. Apparently, the blonde senior begged her to intervene. Hearing this, our boy feels a hint of guilt for how he treated Redina earlier. Adriana can tell he was serious, but she doesn't understand how much he expects to accomplish in just 2 weeks of swinging a sword. She advises him to apologize and end the feud before it gets worse. But our boy is as stubborn as a broken Wi-Fi when deadlines are near. He insists he needs the fight, or rather, the pressure that comes with it, to awaken his ability. Realizing she can't talk him out of it, Adriana sighs. Without another word, she raises her wooden sword and demonstrates a clean, precise movement. Our boy blinks in confusion, unsure of what she's doing. But the answer becomes clear when she turns to him with a calm smile. She's offering to coach him. Our boy takes the wooden sword from Adriana with slight hesitation. He tries to copy her precise movements, but the moment he swings, he falls face first into the ground. Adriana stares at him, half concerned, half amused. She asks if he's joking around or if something's actually wrong with his arms. Before he can answer, she activates her ability. A soft light radiates from her palms, easing the pain in his sore muscles. A warm sensation spreads through his shoulders and the tension melts away. For the first time, he feels relief. Adriana calmly explains that she aims to become a paladin, someone who heals as well as fights. She offers to heal him again if needed, smiling lightly. That small act, makes his cheeks redden. He quietly thanks her, trying not to sound flustered. With the pain gone, but the results are still the same. He falls again. The next scene shifts to the following morning. Our boy waits for Adriana at the training grounds, reflecting on how she had suddenly taken it upon herself to design a personal training plan for him. Before long, she arrives, same confident aura, same calm expression. She announces that today's training will focus on running to build stamina and basic strength. As they stretch before starting, he questions if this isn't technically cheating, considering she's helping him, her classmate's opponent. Adriana barely blinks. She explains that his opponent, Art, refused to listen to her in the first place, so it is only natural to help him, so there isn't breaking of any rule. Besides, with his current physical condition, calling him weak would be an understatement. After pointing that out, she signals for him to start running. Naturally, it doesn't take long before our boy starts lagging behind, panting like he just ran from the Demon King himself. Adriana uses her ability again, removing the fatigue from his body to keep him going. After stamina training, they move on to strength exercises. Each time he looks like he's about to collapse, Adriana steps in to steady him, using both her hands and ability to keep him upright. By the end of the day, he somehow survives. Barely. Before leaving, Adriana advises him to start eating proper meals to support his training. And just like that, she's acting like his personal coach, or maybe even his wife. With that thought in mind, our boy decides to head to the kitchen. Normally, the Imperial Academy provides professional chefs to prepare meals for students. But the royal class has the privilege of cooking for themselves, another luxury that goes mostly unused. When he arrives at the dining hall, he's surprised to find someone already there. It's Ellen. The hall is usually empty at this hour, which makes her presence feel oddly out of place. He wonders for a second if this was one of those small setting details from his novel that he forgot to write down. Approaching her, he asks if there are any ingredients left in the kitchen. She gives a quiet nod. Without saying another word, he walks past her, telling her to enjoy her meal. Inside the kitchen, he pauses for a moment. The place is stocked with ingredients, yet it's clear nobody ever uses it. He starts cooking, quickly preparing a simple meal of eggs and bacon. Unawares, Ellen is practically drooling just by the smell of his dish. She's also staring hungrily at the food. With a sigh, he offers to share. As they sit together, he starts teasing her for not knowing how to cook. But that brief moment of distraction is all she needs. The instant he looks away, Ellen devours everything, every last bite. He doesn't even get a single taste of his own cooking. When she finishes, she looks up and calmly declares that she's still hungry, basically telling him to get back in the kitchen. Unfortunately, they both have class soon, so he suggests they grab lunch together instead. She agrees. That wicked grin spreads across his face again. If she wants to eat, then fine. He'll make sure she eats 2 full bowls of spicy food as payback. Later that day, he returns to his room and opens his system window. His stats show minor improvement. Not much, but enough to prove progress. The upcoming duel in 2 weeks is his real goal. He's certain it will serve as the trigger he needs to awaken his ability and the first true step towards surviving the chaos to come. Because sooner or later, that gate to another world, the one he wrote into the story, will open. And when it does, he plans to be ready. Ellen sits across from our boy, calmly eating a bowl of spicy food that could probably melt steel. Her hands tremble slightly, yet she continues without hesitation. Even though it was her idea to have lunch together, our boy can't help but stare in amazement. How is she still eating? At this point, he starts wondering if she has some hidden trait that forces her never to reject free food. Thinking about it, he mutters under his breath, recalling how she devoured his meal earlier that morning. Now he's paying for her lunch too. At this rate, she's worse than a beggar. To his surprise, Ellen promises to treat him next time. He blinks, completely caught off guard. For a brief second, he starts thinking maybe he's smoother than he thought. Later that evening, after finishing his training, our boy returns to the academy kitchen. Even after all the effort, he still feels weak, but that's exactly why he keeps pushing himself. There's no room for regret. Every bit of training is preparation for the day the gate to another world finally opens. Upon entering the kitchen, he's not shocked this time to find Ellen there again. Her expression says it all. She clearly has no idea what she's eating. Sure enough, the girl is chewing through a whole stick of raw sausage like it's normal food. Our boy confronts her, suggesting she at least cook it first, but she only frowns, clearly finding him annoying. He's too tired to argue or cook a meal for both of them, so he decides to ask for a favor instead. First, he instructs Ellen to cut the vegetables. To his disbelief, it's actually her first time ever using a knife. Next, he guides her on how to prepare the seasoning. Step by step, he teaches her the basics until the food is finally ready. It looks different but decent enough for a first try. Feeling cheeky, our boy suggests she make something by herself next time, but Ellen just glares in annoyance. Without warning, she grabs a full spoon and shoves it in her mouth. At first, she looks fine. Then suddenly, her face goes red as if she just swallowed lava. Our boy just stands there, stunned, as she scrambles for water. After cooling down, she insists that she made the dish herself. That almost breaks him. He's as close to making her eat another round of spicy food out of spite. But before he can say anything, Ellen unexpectedly claims they both made it together. That one line catches him off guard. Her calm expression somehow softens the mood. Later that night, back in his room, he thinks about how Ellen always manages to make him seem petty no matter what. Then comes a surprise. He's greeted by a maid standing silently in his room. The sight makes him tense immediately. This could be a setup from either the prince or the princess. Without saying a word, the maid steps forward and quietly shuts the door. She reveals her true identity. It's Sarkar in disguise. Getting straight to business, Sarkar begins reporting on the investigation into the princess's ability. So far, there's been no progress. Her power is shrouded in secrecy, and the investigation is hitting walls everywhere. According to Sarkar, the princess's ability is tied to a controversy within the imperial family itself. Not even the prince knows the details. The only people who seem to know anything about it, aside from the emperor, are her homeroom teacher, Sir Mustang, and the instructor who oversees the ability class. Sarkar explains that infiltrating the academy wasn't easy. Since the princess is intentionally hiding her power, it's nearly impossible to get her talk about it more than once, especially if she disguises herself as the homeroom teacher or the abilities instructor. Our boy listens closely, fully grasping the difficulty of the situation. It's strange how easily he understands the depth of the problem, almost as if he's used to dealing with matters like this. He speculates that the reason for her secrecy might be because her ability is dangerous or unstable. Sarkar praises his sharp insight. After thinking it through, our boy decides the investigation is too risky and tells Sarkar to drop it entirely. Then he mentions that he has something to report as well. With a calm expression, he reveals that the princess herself has been searching for him. Sarkar freezes for a second before responding with a puzzled look, unsure what to make of that revelation. Sarkar freezes for a moment, shock flashing across her face after hearing the report. The situation is far more dangerous than expected, and she immediately advises our boy to stay out of it. That is, unless he wants to see the heads of Lawyer and her subordinates rolling on the ground. Our boy adds grimly. Ironically, Sarkar can't help but find the situation amusing. The thought of the imperial princess being in debt to a supposed beggar is absurd. Our boy doesn't entertain the irony. He simply blames Sarkar for kidnapping the princess in the first place, calling the entire situation a mess of her own making. After a moment of silence, he begins to share his thoughts, perhaps suggesting the idea of faking evidence to claim that Valier is dead. Sarkar considers this and admits it might actually be the safest course, assuming he can satisfy the princess's suspicions. But if not, things could turn bloody fast. If the princess ever learns the truth or grows impatient, she could easily eliminate him, Lawyer, and the rest of the group without hesitation. Thinking this through, our boy comes up with a plan. He'll pretend to work on the case. Sarkar doesn't quite understand at first, So he clarifies, as long as the princess believes there's progress, she won't act. Just like the prince is keeping him close only because he's useful, the princess will also leave him alone if he appears to be making progress on finding his previous self. Ironically, if things go well, she might even protect Lawyer and the others, so long as the results benefit her. In short, he's now positioning himself in the middle ground, playing both sides. As usual, Sarkar looks almost pleased by his strategic thinking. His insight never fails to surprise. The next day, training resumes with Adriana. Our boy looks completely drained, sweat dripping from every pore. Adriana notices immediately and suggests taking a short break. Watching her gentle nature, he can't help but think, if someone this kind ever ends up in hell, it would definitely be his fault. After all, she's unknowingly helping the next Demon King. During the break, he notices something odd. Adriana never uses her healing power on herself. Curious, he asks why. She explains calmly that her power isn't exactly tied to direct healing. Depending on her ability to, often for growth, would be unnatural, like relying on a drug that might even harm a body in the long run. Her ability simply accelerates recovery. It doesn't restore energy or stamina. That's why she always tells him to eat more food after training. In other words, her ability functions more like a stim pack than a miracle cure. Soon, it's time to continue their exercises. That's when our boy's attention shifts to the other side of the field. There, he spots Ludwig, the main protagonist, training with his classmates. Normally, Ludwig would be clashing with them, as expected from the novel setting. Yet now, that tension seems to have vanished, thanks to him. The flow of events is clearly diverging from the original story. Saving the princess and changing certain outcomes has already caused a butterfly effect, and our boy has no idea how far it'll spread. Later that day, something else catches him off guard. Ellen, of all people, decides to cook. She says she's making beef stew, something she used to enjoy at home. Naturally, our boy starts pestering, making snarky comments about her lack of cooking experience. According to him, it's a miracle she hasn't poisoned herself yet. His non-stop chatter continues as he makes small corrections, earning him a death glare sharp enough to pierce stone. One more word, and she might actually kill him. Finally, the stew is done. Our boy proudly claims the credit. Without his supervision, the food wouldn't even be edible. Then he wonders aloud whether they can even finish it all. Ellen, however, insists they can. He laughs, commenting that it's a good thing she joined the academy. Otherwise, her family's entire food supply would have gone extinct by now. Then, unexpectedly, Ellen starts opening up. She reveals that she didn't come to the academy because she wanted to. It was because the people around her wanted her to. Our boy blinks, surprised to hear her speak so openly for the first time. When he asks if she's mad about it, she denies it, but her expression tells a different story. He can tell she's lying, which only irritates her further. Moments later, he pays the price for that comment. This time, Ellen decides to help him with swordsmanship, but one look at her face is enough to see she's clearly planning to make him suffer. Still, the sparring session proves incredibly useful. He learns that swordsmanship isn't just about swinging a blade. It's about movement, posture, and control. Even submission techniques play a role. Of course, Ellen's lesson includes a healthy dose of revenge. 2 days remain before the duel. Ellen instructs him to focus on grip training. Swordsmanship means nothing without the proper hold. To strengthen it, she makes him withstand her relentless strikes without dropping his sword. The exercise continues until his weapon finally snaps in half. When he goes to fetch another, Ellen calmly tells him he's going to lose the duel. Our boy knows she's right. He admits as much, grabbing a new wooden sword. Then she asks if he truly wants to win. After all, no one enters a duel planning to lose. Hearing that, Ellen looks thoughtful, then finally says she has a way for him to win. It's a day before the duel. Adriana instructs our boy to rest and maintain his current condition, warning that overexertion now would only harm his progress. Still, his mind drifts back to his last conversation with Ellen during swordsmanship training. When he asked what she meant by having a way to win the duel, She didn't give a direct answer. Instead, she told him to think about the true purpose of a duel. Pondering over it, he later asked Adriana what she thought that meant. After a moment of silence, she admitted she had no idea. With no clear answers, our boy decides there's only one thing left to do: face his opponent head-on. The day of the duel finally arrives. Despite all the training, his stats remain terrible, though slightly improved. The sight of his status window is discouraging, but giving up is an option. Stepping into the duel arena, he's greeted by the chatter of an excited crowd. Among them sit Ellen, Harriet, and several classmates. Nearby, the ever-cheerful protagonist Ludwig and his group wave like they're watching a festival. Even Princess Charlotte is present, her expression calm yet curious. Scanning the crowd, our boy notes the absence of the prince. Harriet suddenly calls out from the stands, her tone sharp and teasing as usual, telling him to be prepared. Our boy doesn't even bother responding. She's not worth the energy right now. At the center of the arena, he meets his opponent face to face. Sir Eppenhauser steps forward to deliver the official background of the duel. He explains that Art de Gartes, a senior from the upper class, had a personal incident with our boy, specifically the infamous event 2 weeks ago when our boy nearly crushed Art's family jewels. The moment those words leave Eppenhauser's mouth, laughter ripples through the audience. Our boy tries his hardest not to burst out laughing himself. The detailed report only makes the whole thing sound even more ridiculous. Once the formalities are done, Eppenhauser asks both participants to declare their conditions for victory. Art demands that if he wins, our boy must apologize publicly and show proper respect to his seniors. To everyone's surprise, our boy counters with his own demand. If he wins, he wants the foolish senior discipline tradition abolished, and an apology from Art himself. The crowd erupts with whispers. Art's expression darkens instantly. Before the instructor can begin the match, Art raises his hand to stop him. He announces that participants in an academy duel have the right to choose a representative to fight on their behalf. Eppenhauser confirms this rule, and our boy's expression stiffens. Art declares his representative, a third-year student named Meyerton. And just like that, the man responsible for forcing the second years to discipline class finally steps into the arena. Meyerton wastes no time mocking him, claiming he hopes our boy's swordsmanship is as sharp as his mouth since his wit won't save him. It's at that moment the realization hits. Ellen's words finally make sense. The true purpose of a duel wasn't just to fight, it was to choose how to fight. And the answer she hinted at was standing right there in the crowd. If he wanted, he could pick his own representative. Even Adriana seems fired up, eyes fixed on him as if silently begging to let her handle this arrogant senior. Eppenhauser then explains the duel's final condition. Victory will be decided if one side clearly dominates or if a party surrenders. But Meyerton raises his hand again, suggesting an additional rule. He wants the duel to end only when one side surrenders. No early calls. When asked why, his grin turns wicked. He simply wants to teach our boy a painful lesson. Eppenhauser turns to confirm whether our boy agrees to this condition. To everyone's surprise, he accepts, but adds one of his own. He'll fight personally, but his opponent must be handicapped. The crowd gasps. Adriana shows concern, but our boy's expression remains calm. Meyerton laughs, accepting the handicap without hesitation. His left arm will remain unused during the match. To him, this is barely a restriction. Most of the audience thinks our boy has lost his mind. But what they don't know is that swordsmanship isn't just about strength. It's about balance, coordination, and how both arms guide the weapon. Lessons Ellen drilled into him mercilessly. With both sides ready, Eppenhauser signals the start of the duel. Our boy charges first, aiming to catch Meyerton off guard. But the difference in skill is overwhelming. With a single swing, Meyerton parries and sends him flying across the arena. Meyerton smirks, eyes gleaming with arrogance. His tone drips with contempt as he taunts our boy's weakness. Strike after strike, Meyerton deliberately aims for his sword, testing his grip. It's then our boy realizes the reason Ellen focused his final training session on grip strength. She saw this coming. Still, the gap between a seasoned third year and a first-year novice is far too wide. The moment his hand slips and the sword clatters to the ground, Myerton follows up with a brutal kick to the gut, forcing him to the floor. Ignoring his opponent's pain, Myerton's expression turns cold and menacing. He commands him to pick up the sword, his tone filled with bloodlust. Our boy struggles to reach for his sword, but Myerton's blade is already descending for another strike. Once again, the weapon is knocked clean out of his hands. Myerton can see it clearly. His opponent lacks experience. Still, there's something in his eyes, the focused gleam of a future swordsman. Despite the relentless assault, our boy refuses to stay down. Each hit drives him closer to the edge, yet he stands again and again. The crowd begins to grow uneasy. The fight stopped looking like a duel and started looking like a beating. But even as bruises form and his breath grows heavy, our boy doesn't utter a single word of surrender. Myerton sighs, thinking the match is nearly over. He can already see victory. But beneath the exhaustion, our boy grits his teeth, not from pain, but from pure irritation. He knows he can't win through normal means. Still, there's one chance left. Something he didn't plan to use. But screw it. In an instant, he charges forward, his movements fueled by raw defiance. Myerton scoffs, thinking the fool has lost his mind. But that's when it happens. Our boy activates his author authority. Rage surges through him, overriding every ounce of hesitation. His mind burns with one thought. Win. He uses the revise ability, sacrificing 20 achievement points to rewrite the outcome of his next strike. The moment their swords clash, Myerton's wooden blade shatters into pieces. Caught completely off guard, Myerton takes the full blow to the head, followed by a brutal knee strike straight to his family jewels. The crowd gasps in collective horror. The best part? Ellen had already told him that wooden swords breaking during duels were considered normal. No one would suspect a thing. As Myerton reels from the hit, Sir Eppenhauser calmly tosses him another wooden sword, urging the duel to continue. But our boy doesn't wait. He tackles Myerton to the ground, pinning him before the senior can even recover. He throws punch after punch, trying to knock him out completely. But his current strength isn't enough. Myerton roars, forcing him back with a violent shove. Enraged by the humiliation, Myerton's killing intent floods the arena. He screams for our boy not to surrender now. Our boy just smirks, declaring that surrender was never part of his plan. He boldly proclaims he'll win this duel, no matter what. Myerton snarls, demanding to know how he plans to do that. He's confident he won't fall for the same trick twice. Our boy knows he has no logical chance of victory, but even so, he refuses to kneel. At that moment, something shifts inside him. His mind clears. His heartbeat steadies. He finally understands how self-suggestion truly works. As the name implies, it isn't about controlling others. It's about convincing himself. He has to plant a belief so deep that it becomes reality. From the stands, Harriet watches with growing concern. To her, it looks like he's completely lost it. But our boy keeps whispering inwardly, forcing his mind to obey the command. He believes, no matter how impossible, it's already over. Myerton charges again, his strikes burning with fury. Our boy raises his sword calmly, meeting the blow head-on. The moment the weapons collide, his eyes blaze with conviction. The system flickers before him. Ability self-suggestion has awakened. And with a sharp, explosive motion, our boy swings with everything he has left. The strike lands clean across Myerton's face, sending the arrogant senior flying across the arena. One clean strike from our boy leaves Myerton completely shaken, his stance faltering and eyes wide. Without hesitation, our boy grabs him by the head and slams his face straight into the ground. Gasps ripple through the arena. But our boy doesn't stop. He keeps smashing Myerton's face into the dirt, demanding his surrender. Myerton, bloodied and dazed, grits his teeth, demanding to know how this talentless fool suddenly gained such strength. In response, his face meets the ground again. If this continues, there's no doubt someone might die. But our boy doesn't care. He's willing to go that far if Myerton refuses to yield. Between each brutal strike, he explains in a low, steady tone that his ability is fueled by belief. The stronger his conviction, the stronger he becomes. Right now, his faith in victory is absolute. That's why he's overpowering Myerton. The difference isn't strength, it's conviction. Myerton, trembling and broken, finally apologizes, his voice cracking as he surrenders. Moments later, he faints. Sir Eppenhauser immediately announces the result. Our boy is the winner. The crowd erupts in chaos and disbelief. Barely conscious, our boy catches a glimpse of his system window flashing before his eyes. Achievement points gained. Dual mission complete. His vision fades, and his body collapses from exhaustion. The scene shifts to an unfamiliar ceiling. When our boy opens his eyes, Adriana is leaning over him with a relieved smile. She checks on him, her face close enough to make him wonder if this is how paladins measure body temperature. Adriana explains everything that happened after he passed out. Apparently, Myerton was moved to another room for treatment. Thankfully, not the same one he's in. Almost as if reading his mind, Adriana confirms it, then folds her arms, her expression sharp. She asks why he didn't choose her as his representative. Their eyes meet, but he quickly looks away, pretending not to notice her glare. Adriana sighs, both annoyed and relieved. Still, she admits she's shocked. His insane plan to awaken his ability by getting beaten half to death actually worked. Even so, she scolds him for being reckless. If he keeps pulling stunts like that, he might not survive 6 years in the academy. He promises not to repeat such recklessness, explaining that now his ability is awakened, he plans to earn a talent next. Adriana isn't convinced. She warns him not to pick a fight with another senior just because he won this one. If he does, she swears she'll scold him herself. That's the classic tsundere move, stern words hiding concern. Our boy thanks her sincerely, but knowing him, he can't resist making a cheeky remark. Adriana immediately smacks him on the head, cheeks puffed in irritation. Still, she stays by his side, watching over him until he falls asleep again. Later that day, our boy meets Sir Eppenhauser for a formal consultation. The teacher listens carefully, clearly intrigued. He admits he's never heard of such an ability before, one that grows stronger purely through belief. He tells our boy he's lucky to have awakened it during the duel, but warns him not to use it recklessly or cause unnecessary trouble. Our boy leaves the office deep in thought. Believing in himself literally makes him stronger. What kind of strange cheat skill is that? The academy atmosphere shifts completely overnight. Rumors spread fast. The talentless beggar who defeated a senior student. Now, Eric and his group keep their distance, observing him like prey watching a predator. None of them dare to speak first. On his way back from class, our boy runs into Harriet. She stops and just stares at him for a moment before turning away, pretending not to notice. That's all it takes for him to start trouble. He calls out to her, making her stop again with a sigh of irritation. But before she can speak, he stays silent, just watching. Exactly as planned, she snaps, accusing him of being annoying and full of himself. Our boy only smirks, pointing out how worried she looked during his duel. Every time he got hit, her face showed it. Harriet freezes. Her cheeks turn crimson almost instantly. Flustered, she tries to deny it, saying she wasn't worried at all, and if anything, she wished he'd been beaten harder. Our boy leans closer, amused, watching her crumble under her own words. But before he can tease further, her voice suddenly cracks. The playful grin fades from his face. Her eyes well up, tears forming as she mutters that he enjoys teasing and making fun of her. For once, our boy is completely speechless, realizing he might have pushed too far. Our boy realizes he just stepped on an emotional landmine while trying to defuse things. Harriet's reaction, however, is like that of a kid who's been teased one too many times by an adult. Seeing her mood swing, our boy quickly changes his tone and sincerely apologizes, but that doesn't work either. Instead, Harriet fires back with a vicious roast, calling him a beggar with no title or money to his name. She even adds that not even her parents or siblings have ever treated her like this. Her sudden outburst makes our boy briefly consider hitting her, though he quickly restrains himself and manages to defuse the misunderstanding. Harriet then shifts the topic to his duel, asking if he didn't feel pain when the senior hit him. Our boy responds, wondering what kind of question that even is. Of course, he knows he only got lucky because he awakened his ability during the fight. Still, he admits that he doesn't want to lose at the time. That's how he truly felt at that moment. Harriet nods in understanding, but points out that he could have died. Our boy simply replies that he didn't die. His blunt response leaves Harriet speechless, with nothing more to say. The scene changes to the classroom, where the prince praises him for defeating a third-year senior. Their conversation gets interrupted when Art, his original second-year opponent, steps forward. At first, our boy misreads the situation, but then Art apologizes. Since he was the main opponent, Art explains the conditions of the duel and admits his mistakes as a senior. Our boy mentally notes that Art isn't a bad guy, just like Adriana once said. He was probably forced to pick a representative at the last second. Redina was likely in a similar situation. The real bastard behind all this must have intentionally ordered her to uphold that foolish tradition, despite knowing how kind-hearted she is. Reflecting on what happened in the gym, our boy realizes he also crossed a line by disrespecting them. With genuine remorse, he lowers his head and apologizes. Art and his classmates are left stunned. After all, our boy is known for being a jerk. Still, Art's appreciation is clearly visible on his face. As Art leaves, our boy decides he'll also apologize to Redina when he meets her next. Later, their homeroom teacher enters the class with an announcement. A celebration festival will soon begin in honor of the hero who defeated the Demon King. The academy will temporarily close for the event, lasting an entire month. However, due to the academic schedule, students will only get 5 days off. The class collectively deflates like popped balloons, but still, 5 days off is better than nothing. Our boy considers visiting Elaris, since it's been a while since he last saw her. Unfortunately, before he can even make plans, Eppenhauser requests to see him personally again. At this point, he's seen the teacher more times than the entire student body combined. The next scene takes place outside, where our boy sits with Eppenhauser in front of an empty pool. It feels strange considering how cold it is, though the academy always maintains warm water using mana stones. Curious, he asks if the same can be applied to the pool and why they don't do it. Eppenhauser quickly picks up on his intentions. From the teacher's expression, it seems he suspects an ulterior motive. Our boy is stunned before realization hits. Eppenhauser must think he wants to see the girls in swimsuits. Panicking, our boy tries to clear the misunderstanding, explaining that his curiosity was purely about potential flaws in his setting. But his teacher clearly isn't interested in continuing that conversation. Poor boy. Just then, Miss Rolindria, an instructor from the ability class, arrives. It turns out she's the real reason he was called outside. She finds it rare for someone to awaken an ability mid-battle and decides to test his power. She instructs him to run laps around the pool. After several laps, she notes the results. His ability doesn't seem to affect external objects, it only affects him. Since he just awakened it, the effect is currently limited to boosting strength. Our boy grows irritated, mostly because he already knew that much. He reminds himself that his ability is self-suggestion, allowing him to place suggestions on his own mind. Thinking like an athlete, he focuses on improving his running speed and lap time. Seeing the strain on his face, Miss Rolindria asks if there's a problem. He explains that his ability gets harder to endure mentally. She tells him not to be discouraged. According to her, while his ability may seem insignificant now, it's too early to draw conclusions based on one test. Besides, his control is impressive for someone newly awakened. It's clear he's naturally gifted in self-suggestion. Her words are meant as a compliment, yet something about them feels off to him. Later that day, our boy lies in his room, reflecting on everything that happened. His thoughts are interrupted by a sudden call. With slight annoyance, he picks up, only to hear the princess's cold voice on the other end, demanding that he come down immediately. Later, our boy meets with the princess, who has already heard about his newly awakened self-suggestion ability. Since his power is tied to belief, she wonders if that same belief can be applied in other ways, specifically to make something or someone real as long as he believes in their existence. Our boy isn't entirely sure, but he admits that it might be possible. That's when the princess reveals a portrait, one that stops him cold. It's the same portrait of Valier, his previous self. His expression stiffens as he frowns at the image, realizing she's been holding onto it all this time. And now, once again, he has no choice but to lie. So he does. He spins another story, recalling the events at the Demon Castle, the time he and Sir Dyrus were chased by the princess's knights. As he speaks, Princess Charlotte grows increasingly tense and emotional, her curiosity and desperation clear in her trembling voice. Eventually, she breaks down in tears, urging him to continue and demanding to know Valier's whereabouts. Our boy knows that if he keeps lying, it will only hurt her more in the end. Thinking quickly, he claims that he can't see past the Demon Castle, suggesting that his power is too weak to go further. Still crying, the princess asks only one question, whether Valier is still alive. Sensing her pain, he responds that the boy is indeed alive. It's not exactly a lie, but he truly doesn't know anything beyond that. His answer brings visible relief to Princess Charlotte, who thanks him again and again with deep gratitude. Once she calms down, she requests that their conversation remain confidential. Our boy understands completely, knowing her brother, Prince Bertus, might try to pry information out of him later. The princess nods and slowly begins to open up. She reveals that during her captivity in the Demon Castle, she nearly lost her sanity. It was during that time that Valier appeared, her savior. Despite being in the same miserable state as her, he remained calm and reassured her, doing everything he could to comfort her. Even though he had lost his own memories, he promised to recover one day, and she vowed to help him when that time came. That, she explains, is why she's been searching for him ever since. Hearing this, our boy quietly asks if that's really a good idea. After all, the princess went through unimaginable trauma in that castle. From his perspective, Valier losing his memories might actually be a blessing in disguise. Princess Charlotte pauses, considering his point, but ultimately decides to keep her promise. She insists that she will find Valier no matter what, and to ensure his cooperation, she offers him anything he desires as a future reward. In response, our boy remarks that it's dangerous to make such promises to someone as lowly as him. After all, in his mind, he's nothing more than a small fry caught between the games of the prince and princess. After their conversation ends, our boy leaves the room, only to find Bertus waiting for him outside. The prince's expression suggests he's aware that his sister is searching for someone. This immediately worries our boy. If the prince overheard their conversation, things could turn ugly fast. Still, he keeps his composure and plays along. From his vague responses, Bertus deduces that our boy hasn't found the person yet. He also suspects that his sister might want to use our boy's connection with Lawyer's gang to track Valier down. This doesn't sit well with him. For the prince to know that much means he's done a background check, meaning the prince already has eyes on him. Despite the tension, our boy continues playing along, careful not to reveal anything specific about his meeting with the princess. Since our boy claims he hasn't found Valier, the prince expresses interest in receiving any intel if he ever does. Before leaving, Bertus casually brings up another topic. He asks if our boy has any interest in becoming the leader of the Thieves Guild, an organization linked to Lawyer's gang. Our boy instantly declines, not even letting the idea linger. From his reaction, the prince deduces that while our boy might have ties to Lawyer's gang, he isn't directly involved with the Thieves Guild. To Bertus, that's a slight disadvantage, Meanwhile, our boy is left inwardly confused, trying to understand where this conversation is heading. The prince explains that criminal groups tend to resurface even if they're destroyed, implying that managing them is better than eradicating them. The direction of the conversation becomes painfully clear. Sure enough, Burtis asks him directly if he wants to become the next guild master of the Thieves Guild. Before our boy can even respond, the scene shifts to the day of the festival. The academy is now on break. Adriana tries inviting him to the church, but he politely declines. After all, how could a demon enter a church? Instead, he decides to remain at the academy to train. His thoughts drift back to the previous day's offer. Burtis wanted him to take that position so he could control the city's underworld through him. If he accepted, he'd gain the prince's full support. But in truth, it's just another way for Burtis to have someone handle his dirty work. Seeing our boy's hesitation, Burtis had brushed it off as a passing thought, too big a plan to set in motion for now. With that, he wished him a good night. Back in the present, Ellen notices how distracted our boy seems during training, thanks to the prince's schemes still spinning in his head. Eventually, he suggests calling it a day since they've been training non-stop, but Ellen refuses, stubbornly pushing herself despite looking ready to collapse. Realizing he can't convince her, he decides to leave, though a sense of worry lingers. His frustration builds until he ends up making food for her out of concern. Returning to the training ground with his usual annoyed expression, he's shocked by what he sees. Ellen lying collapsed on the ground. The next scene opens with Ellen's memories, most likely the final moment she shared with her brother before she suddenly wakes up in the academy infirmary. Meanwhile, our boy has been sitting by her side the entire time, watching over her and waiting for her to wake up. When Ellen finally opens her eyes with a confused expression, he immediately starts scolding her for overworking herself. In the background, the nurse can't help but laugh at the sight. Amused, the nurse interrupts, assuring them that Ellen is out of danger, and it's all thanks to our boy. Mischievously, she adds that he carried Ellen on his back all the way to the infirmary, completely panicked and worried sick. Ellen is stunned to hear this revelation. Before leaving, the nurse advises Ellen not to push herself too hard during training. Once she's gone, our boy turns to Ellen, clearly expecting some kind of acknowledgement. Ellen nods softly, expressing gratitude for his help. Without wasting time, he suggests they head out and offers her the food he made. Once again, Ellen is surprised. He actually cooked something especially for her. However, before they can leave, she insists on taking a shower first. Our boy is confused since it's already past bedtime, but she insists, saying she hates the smell of sweat on her body. This reminds him of a familiar scenario from the original protagonist's story, one that makes him sigh inwardly at how similar things are turning out. He proposes that they go to the dining hall to eat instead, but Ellen hesitates, worried about getting caught. Then, out of nowhere, she suggests they eat in her room. The disbelief on our boy's face says it all. Moments later, the scene shifts to Ellen's dorm room. Our boy sits quietly, observing his surroundings. It's still odd for members of the opposite sex to visit each other's dorms, but thankfully, he adjusted the rules in his setting when he wrote this world. The room itself looks similar to his own, except for the workout equipment scattered around, and a strange wooden box resting in one corner. Just then, Ellen steps out of the bathroom, her hair damp and her face refreshed. Our boy urges her to eat before the food gets cold. As they share the meal, the silence between them stretches. Ellen isn't much of a talker, but her distant stare says enough. Noticing this, our boy breaks the quiet, commenting that this kind of peaceful evening is what it means to live normally. He understands what she must be feeling deep inside, so he gently advises her to let those feelings out before they eat her from within. Ellen finally speaks, her voice calm yet heavy. She asks what he would do if he had to save the world in exchange for his own life. His gaze sharpens. He replies that while someone could make that kind of sacrifice, a life is still a life. After all, the world celebrates and honors her brother as the hero who killed the Demon King, his own father, while Ellen is left mourning that same brother. After a moment of silence, Our boy answers sincerely, saying such decisions always depend on the situation. Ellen acknowledges his words, quietly adding that she wouldn't let herself die like that. Our boy agrees, and both of them stare out at the moonlight through the balcony window. Then, Ellen suddenly decides to show him something. She brings the strange box from earlier and sets it on the table. Opening it, she reveals a sword. Even before she speaks, our boy already knows its name, Lament. He explains that Ellen's brother was a dual sword user who wielded two holy blades. Allsbringer, blessed by the god of war Als, and Lament, blessed by the moon goddess Menses. Before leaving for the demon war, her brother entrusted Lament to Ellen as a keepsake. Now it all makes sense. Our boy finally understands the source of her incredible strength. Ellen shows a faint, fragile smile and thanks him quietly. For the first time in a while, the system reappears before his eyes, rewarding him with achievement points for making Ellen reveal her identity earlier than in the original storyline. The next day arrives. Our boy steps off the train and walks into the bustling shopping district of the town. His destination, Elleris's shop. When she sees him, her eyes widen in shock. He greets her casually, waving as if it's just another normal day, saying it's been a while. Elleris, however, isn't amused. She immediately warns him that it's dangerous for him to visit. He assures her that he took several detours to cover his tracks, but she still looks uneasy. He insists that he just came to see her, which momentarily softens her expression. Still, her concern doesn't fade. Seeing this, our boy asks what happened while he was away at the academy. Elleris recalls their first meeting, back when he was selling scrolls on the streets. He remembers it too, though he doesn't quite understand where she's going with it. That's when Elleris reveals the problem. Someone has been investigating. Apparently, people discovered that her store was the last place he was seen. After hearing Elleris's report, the boy realizes that the people searching for Valier are actually trackers. Elleris explains that while they don't suspect her directly, they've begun keeping a close watch on her store. Suddenly, she asks if he stole a fireball scroll. Shocked by the accusation, the boy freezes. As Elleris explains further, he recalls the blonde merchant he met before meeting her. Trying to clear the misunderstanding, he explains that the merchant actually gave him the scroll, likely because he noticed his scrolls were fake but realistic enough to fool others. Elleris is stunned as realization strikes her. The merchant's true intention becomes clear. He wanted the boy to create fake scrolls for him to sell. Such a scheme could endanger innocent buyers. Furious, Elleris is clearly disgusted by the man's plan. Trying to change the tense mood, the boy asks about Lawyer. Elleris explains that she hasn't been in contact with her unless something urgent comes up. They end their conversation by deciding to hold a meeting the following day. That night, the scene shifts. Elleris checks if the boy has fallen asleep. She seems troubled, her expression heavy with thought. The boy notices and asks what's on her mind. Elleris begins to speak. She explains that there isn't much difference between humans and demons. Yet, while humans understand the meaning of prosperity, they destroy one another in pursuit of it. That thought alone fills her with disgust. The boy sits up, realizing something terrible might have happened. Elleris only says that he'll find out the next day. The following day, the two arrive at the secret meeting spot. As usual, Sarkar doesn't hold back his dramatic enthusiasm upon seeing the boy, while Lawyer watches from the side, unimpressed by his antics. After their usual exchange, Lawyer brings up the boy's time at the academy. He admits it hasn't been easy. He almost died. The group is stunned and demands to know what happened. After a long explanation, especially the part about awakening his ability during a duel, everyone reacts differently. Sarkar is genuinely impressed by how he handled the senior troublemaker, while the others are filled with concern. To reassure them, the boy shows Elleris his clan necklace, still intact. She breathes a sigh of relief, glad that he doesn't harbor hatred toward anyone at the academy. Returning to the main topic, the boy asks about the situation in the capital, the one Elleris promised to reveal once everyone gathered. But as soon as he brings it up, the atmosphere turns tense. No one speaks, and their serious expressions make him uneasy. Finally, Sarkar steps forward. He reports a disturbing rumor spreading among nobles. During the upcoming hero celebration, demons will be sold in a secret black market. These demons were supposed to be executed as prisoners of war, so the situation makes no sense. Then Sarkar drops another bombshell. The nobles are buying them as collections. The boy is shocked, but soon realizes that most of these demons are humanoid, mainly succubi. Still confused, he questions why anyone would purchase a succubus since they feed on life force. Sarkar explains coldly that they are brainwashed, stripped of their memories, and turned into playthings. The same fate awaits the male demons. The boy is visibly shocked. Thinking quickly, he asks if they plan to save them. That's when the group's silence deepens. The answer isn't simple. They want to, but the risk is immense. If one of them dies, it could jeopardize everything, including the boy's life. Ellerus agrees with Sarkar and lawyer's cautious stance, but the boy doesn't share their view. Normally, if it were just the three of them, they would risk everything to rescue the captured demons. But now, with him involved, the priorities have changed. This isn't how the story is supposed to go. In the main plot, this is where the main protagonist is supposed to save his classmate who was kidnapped during the festival. Now, these things are different, and the gravity of the situation causes him to ponder seriously. He reflects for a long moment, torn between safety and action. But in the end, for the sake of his friends, and for those who cannot save themselves, his resolve hardens. Just as Ellerus is about to suggest letting the matter go, the boy interrupts. His decision is final. None of them will sleep peacefully if they stand by and do nothing. Ellerus doesn't understand his statement just now. Regardless, he declares his verdict. He may not be the main protagonist of the story, but he is going to save his demons. Upon hearing the boy's intent to rescue the demon prisoners, unease ripples through the group. Ellerus speaks first, her voice calm but firm. 3 critical points must be addressed before any rescue plan can take shape. The location of the auction, the number of demon prisoners, and the identity of the security detail. Sarkar steps forward, volunteering to uncover the auction's location. Such information, after all, can only be accessed through the nobility. Curious, the boy presses for details. How could such an operation even be arranged? Sarkar suspects a hidden hand at work, likely a collaboration among the allied forces. For such a massive trafficking operation to exist, it must have been orchestrated long before the Demon King's fall. The boy considers this, realizing the scheme might have been in motion even before the war ended. As the discussion deepens, the weight of the situation grows heavier. A mental echo reverberates, a chilling realization. To make sense of it, our boy lays it out. Even the commanders and those overseeing prisoners of war are corrupt. Rumors of the auction are already circulating among the nobility. It's only a matter of time before word reaches the imperial family. That possibility changes everything. If the royals are aware, maybe the prince or princess is involved. The boy has already suspected as much. The stakes skyrocket. With the imperial family involved, planning becomes a minefield. Still, he proposes using teleportation magic. Ellerus, however, shakes her head. Mages will be stationed at the auction. The chances of pulling off a magical extraction are slim. Just as the boy teeters on the edge of despair, Ellerus offers a different angle. The rescue doesn't have to happen during the auction. He urges her to elaborate. In her usual composed manner, she lays out the idea. The best time to strike is either before or after the auction. She presents it as if it's a casual thought, but the implications are anything but. The boy listens to every suggestion, weighing each one carefully before speaking. He acknowledges Ellerus's plan. Stealing the prisoners outside the auction window is viable. But there's a catch. If the imperial family is already aware of the auction, then the moment the slaves go missing, the capital will erupt. The mere idea of demons roaming freely within the city would trigger a lockdown. Security would tighten. Panic would spread like wildfire. A bitter thought crosses his mind. This scenario never made it into his novel. The risk is enormous. Even if the rescue succeeds, The aftermath could be catastrophic. A new idea sparks. He turns to Elaris, asking if large-scale teleportation is possible. She nods, but with a caveat: it requires time. Half an hour, to be exact. The boy buries his face in his palm. That's far too long. The operation needs to be swift. Pivoting, he asks how many people she can teleport at once. Elaris answers, 20 during the day, up to 50 at night. Relief washes over him. The number of succubi shouldn't be overwhelming. He remembers seeing the Imperial army loading demons when he left with Sir Dyrus to rescue the princess. That memory gives him a rough estimate. Still, the group eyes him. They want to know if he has a plan. He lays it out, step by step. The goal is to save all the prisoners. But there's a glaring flaw. There are only 4 people. Manpower is scarce. So he asks, what's the most realistic approach? Before anyone can respond, he points out the true problem. The black market exists. Then comes the twist. What if the rumors don't just circulate among nobles, but reach the commoners? The group remains silent, confused. He drops the bombshell. The plan is to involve the most powerful force on the continent. Yes, Bro is involving the church. The very idea of selling demons clashes with their doctrine. The Knights of the Church operate independently, refusing to align with the imperial family. That makes them the perfect wild card. Sarkar raises a concern. The plan might work, but one critical risk remains. If the church gets involved, the prisoners could be executed. The boy agrees, but he's already accounted for that. Their move must come before the church takes action. Once the church uncovers the demon trade within the imperial capital, it will be seen as a betrayal. They will be forced to preserve the prisoners as evidence, at least for a while. And if the auction organizers catch wind of the leak, they won't have enough time to erect anti-magic barriers, leaving room for them to act with teleportation. In the end, the plan is simple yet explosive. Use the church to stir things, then strike in the confusion. Rescue every last prisoner in one decisive sweep. Of course, our boy knows that any prisoner beyond Elaris's teleportation limit would die. But this is still the best plan he can come up with. That's when Lawyer speaks up. She suggests using a warp gate instead of mass teleportation. At first, our boy doesn't follow her logic. But she explains, using a warp gate means every prisoner could be saved at once. Our boy considers the possibility, but only if the gate happens to be along the same route the Church Knights will take. That's when Sarkar reveals that there are multiple gates in the capital, and one happens to be right in front of the church headquarters. In other words, that's the very gate the Church Knights will use to transport the prisoners, Elaris adds. Sarkar nods, saying the church will most likely follow that route. All they need to do is create a distraction and use the warp gate before the Knights do. Once they emerge from the other side, Elaris can destroy the gate to cut off pursuit. Finally, our boy understands the plan. Since a warp gate is a two-way passage, destroying one side will prevent the Church Knights from following. Thinking of this, a confident smirk spreads across his face. With everything settled, each of them takes on a role. Lawyer volunteers to distract the Knights, and Elaris will assist her. Sarkar offers to disguise himself as one of the soldiers stationed near the gate. Our boy carefully considers the plan. It might just succeed, but if things go wrong, he can always use his author authority to revise the event. Later that night, at Elaris's place, she suddenly thanks him. He doesn't understand why she's expressing gratitude when she and the others are the ones doing most of the work. Elaris explains that she's thankful for letting them take part in something dangerous. After a moment of silence, our boy asks if she's really fine with this. She answers quietly, aware that people might get hurt. It's not her first time killing, and over the years, she's grown used to it, perhaps too used to it. Now, she's simply tired of it all. With that, she drifts off to sleep, still whispering her thanks. The scene shifts to the day of the auction. 2 guards from the Merchant Guild stand watch on site, the same location where the demon prisoners are being held. The group observes the area from a rooftop. According to the intel Sarkar gathered, there are around 100 prisoners. The black market operates under the Merchant Guild, but has 2 different locations. They need a way to let people, specifically the church, know about the prisoners. They come up with two methods. First, a direct letter detailing everything. Second, spreading rumors. After much discussion, they choose the first option. Rumors could be twisted or exaggerated, and worse, they could put innocent people in danger during the rescue. As they wait for the church knights to arrive, the group quietly discusses the use of invisibility magic. Suddenly, Lawyer stiffens. She senses a familiar scent. She reports that the church knights are approaching. Their scent is strong, too close. Moving to a better vantage point, she surveys the situation. It appears the knights have split into two groups, one heading straight to the merchant guild, the other toward the main street. Our boy finds this strange. Why would the church knights move so silently? Right on cue, one knight approaches the guard stationed at the site. Using her keen senses, Lawyer reports the situation in real time. As expected, the guards desperately try to stop the knights from entering. But the church knights aren't here to negotiate. Within moments, the guards are forced aside, and the knights enter the area where the captives are held. Our boy sees this as the perfect moment to act. If the knights decide to execute the demon prisoners all at once, the entire plan will fall apart. He decides to use his author authority skill to prevent that from happening. Or at least, that's what he intends to do. Before he can activate it, the system flashes a message. The revised function cannot be used. A cold chill runs down his spine as sweat begins to pour down his face. Just as our boy begins to imagine the worst outcome, Elleris snaps him out of his thoughts. He blurts out his fear that the knights might actually kill the prisoners. Contrary to his worries, Lawyer reports that the knights are coming out. That's when our boy remembers his first theory. The church might use the prisoners as evidence of the imperial capital's corruption. Meanwhile, Lawyer observes that the number of prisoners matches Sarkar's intel, and they all seem to be in perfect condition. Hearing this, our boy finally exhales in relief. He figures the reason his author authority didn't activate was because his intended adjustment matched what had already happened. Maybe fate didn't need rewriting this time. Regardless, he's grateful things are unfolding according to plan. With that, the group moves toward their next destination, the Warp Gate. As they advance, Lawyer reports the conversation she overheard between the knights. On the surface, it sounds like they're taking the prisoners as proof of the Empire's corruption. But in truth, their real mission is something else entirely. It turns out even the Holy Church isn't as pure as it seems. Now it all makes sense. The silent approach, the secret nighttime operation. Normally, the church would be the last group anyone would suspect of such schemes. Guess our boy gave them too much credit. Soon, the Warp Gate comes into view. But before they can make a move, one of the knights suddenly senses their presence and orders a scout party to check the area. Our boy freezes in disbelief as Elleris urgently whispers for him to run. But it's too late. One of the knights spots them, even though they're cloaked in invisibility magic. Panicking, our boy tries to activate his author authority to revise the situation. But before he can, something catches his attention. Elleris raises her hand and summons a massive fireball. The church knights reel in shock at the sight of such powerful, high-ranking magic erupting before them. Meanwhile, our boy just stands there, completely stunned. That's when he remembers, right? The plan did involve creating a distraction. Still, the size of that fireball makes it look more like Elleris has a personal grudge against the church. She seems dead set on wiping them out. One thing becomes clear to our boy in that moment. He's never crossing Elleris again. Ever. The knights narrowly dodge her attack and begin to regroup, ready to form ranks. But before they can, someone charges into the scene. Lawyer, fully transformed into her beast form, tearing through the knights like a storm. The demon prisoners stare in shock, witnessing one of their own fighting back against the church. Seizing the opportunity, Elleris guides the captives toward the Warp Gate. However, the knights quickly recover. These aren't ordinary soldiers. They're battle-hardened veterans, and they move in perfect formation. Things begin spiraling out of control. Even with both Elleris and Lawyer, the odds are stacked against them. Then out of nowhere, the ground trembles violently. The knights lose balance as the earth cracks beneath their feet. A shadow looms over the battlefield. Our boys' reinforcements have arrived. A dragon suddenly appears out of nowhere. And just like that, the tide of battle turns. The next scene shifts to a quiet forest clearing. There, the demon prisoners have gathered, alive and safe. The mission was a success. Our boy is still reeling from the sight of Sarkar, who just casually revealed himself to be a literal powerhouse, a dragon in disguise. With all the prisoners accounted for, the system notifies our boy of his new achievement points. Standing before the rescued demons, he formally introduces himself as Valier Jr., son of the Demon King. The reaction is immediate. Every single demon drops to their knees in reverence, greeting their long-lost prince. Among them, Sarkar suddenly freezes. His sharp eyes lock onto someone within the crowd, someone familiar, a demon princess. Later that night, our boy has a private conversation with her. She seems surprised that he's lost his memories. He takes the opportunity to apologize, which leaves her puzzled. Still, she thanks him for saving her and admits she's shocked he's even alive. But something feels off to our boy. There's an odd tension between them, something unspoken. He starts to wonder what kind of relationship the two of them had in the past. Once again, he apologizes, thinking maybe he wronged her somehow. But she shakes her head, saying it's the opposite. If anything, she should be the one apologizing. That catches his attention immediately. He bluntly asks if she used to tease or bully him. Her flustered attempt to explain herself only confirms it. She did. Apparently, the two were childhood friends. Her name is Aerie, daughter of the succubus queen, one of the 4 demon kings of the realm. Naturally, the two of them grew up close, though Aerie insists her teasing was just her way of knocking some sense into him. Of course, Valier always gave back as good as he got, especially when his father was around. But when the demon race fell, Aerie was captured and became a prisoner. Thinking back, our boy can't help but feel that the old Valier might have actually deserved a beating. Still, seeing Aerie's awkward expression now makes him question just how messed up his past self really was. He shifts the topic, asking about her magic power and if anything happened while she was held captive. Aerie hesitates, then adjusts her hair, and that's when he notices. Her horns are gone. Not just that. She reveals that the humans also removed their tails. The captives were subjected to experiments, leaving Aerie uncertain if she can even wield magic anymore. She looks away, eyes dim. To her, she's completely useless now. She apologizes, saying she has no way to repay him for saving her. But our boy shakes his head. That was never the point. He explains that he saved them because he could, not because he needed them. He has no grand plan or ulterior motive. She's free to return to the demon realm and live however she wants. Aerie is genuinely touched by his words, and in that moment, she makes a decision. Later, our boy is surprised when some demons volunteer to follow him back to the capital. Before asking for their reasons, he clarifies that he has no interest in revenge or starting a war against humans. Even so, Aerie expresses her intention to remain in the capital. As a royal demon, she feels she still has an obligation to her people. She adds that even if they've lost their magic, they still have their bodies and their will. Crossing his arms, our boy asks what she means by that. Aerie grins and declares her plan, to wage war not with swords or spells, but with money. She wants to help him earn so much wealth that even the imperial family would fear his influence. Both our boy and Elleris exchange glances, curious but also slightly alarmed, as they ask what exactly she's planning. Aerie explains it simply. She intends to disrupt the humans' entire commercial chain and use the profits to rebuild the demon race's power. Our boy admits he's not exactly a business genius. He's still just a student, after all, but asks how she plans to gather the initial funds for such an ambitious plan. Aerie nods confidently. She already has an idea. She proposes that they sell themselves to humans. She knows demons fetch a high price on the black market, so they could use that as capital to start their operations. Before she can even finish, our boy snaps mid-presentation, calling her plan absolute nonsense. Because really, only a demon would think step one of an economic empire is sell yourself to slavery. Like, bro, literally just save them from slavery. And the very first thing Eri suggests is selling herself off as a sex slave. With tears welling up in her eyes, she tries to explain that it's all for his sake, for the revenge she believes he seeks against humanity. The poor girl genuinely thinks this is the only thing she can offer since she's useless now. Before our boy can even open his mouth, the other demon girls beside her suddenly drop to their knees, following her lead. Eri, still desperate, offers another solution. If he refuses to sell them directly, she says she'll just go to a brothel instead. She's literally begging to be sent to the streets. At this point, our boy feels like he's about to lose his mind. He hurriedly convinces them, again, that he has no intention of waging war or selling anyone. As for money, he assures Eri there are plenty of proper ways to earn it. But somehow, Eri just tilts her head in confusion. This is the same girl who, 2 minutes ago, was talking about dismantling the empire's economy. And now she can't think past selling her body? Our boy is absolutely baffled. So, he firmly tells them to stick with businesses that don't involve selling their bodies. Something like running inns, taverns, or trading goods, literally anything else. That's when Elleris steps in with a helpful suggestion. She mentions Edina Island, a floating island city just south of their location. It's a bustling commercial hub, perfect for business and far from the Empire's suspicions. Our boy is impressed by Elleris's insight. Turning to Eri, he asks what she thinks. After a brief moment of thought, Eri nods and agrees to follow his advice. In that case, she vows to make herself useful. Yep, girl's definitely catching feelings and she doesn't even realize it yet. Our boy appreciates her determination and tells her to stay in touch from time to time. With everything settled, it's finally time for him to return to the imperial capital. A few days later, our boy arrives back at the academy, only to find everyone in chaos. The students have just been hit with bad news. No one is allowed to leave the academy grounds. And the reason? Well, let's just say it's all thanks to his little stunt with the demon rescue. Rumors are already spreading like wildfire about the church's involvement, the black market, and the trafficking of demon slaves. The scandal is massive. The Empire's honor was shattered. But for our boy, it's the best possible outcome. He earns a flood of achievement points for completely overturning the main plotline. In fact, the entire event that was supposed to happen, the one where the original protagonist saved his classmate Delphine during the hero celebration, has now been completely erased from existence. Not that everything's perfect, though. He's still getting absolutely wrecked by Ellen in sword training. And to make things more complicated, she starts asking questions. Ellen wonders why the demons specifically attacked the church knights and no one else. If revenge was their motive, there were far better targets. While most people dismiss demons as mindless monsters, our boy can't help but notice how thoughtful Ellen's reasoning is. She's actually trying to understand, not just judge. When she comments that the demons seem to be getting smarter, our boy nearly lets something slip that could expose him. Luckily, Ellen doesn't catch on. Then, as usual, she insists on resuming training, but our boy, already sore and frustrated, protests. No matter what he says, it's like talking to a wall. In the end, Ellen just shrugs and tells him to leave if he doesn't want to train. But instead, our boy suddenly grabs her hand, looks straight at her, and tells her to just follow him and not complain. Bro unintentionally rizzed her up. And where's he taking her? Out to eat, of course, because even world-altering schemers need a lunch break. If you made it this far and feel the video is worth it, don't forget to show some love by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Until the next recap.